The atmosphere in Konoha felt heavy, almost suffocating. Dark clouds covered the sky, casting shadows over the bustling village. A group of children ran through the streets, laughing and playing, but Naruto Uzumaki wasn't part of their fun. He stood by himself, hands shoved deep in his pockets, watching them from a distance with a mixture of longing and bitterness. He was used to this feeling, being alone, unwanted. Ever since he could remember, the villagers treated him like an outcast. They wouldn't say why, but their glares were enough to make it clear. Whispers followed him wherever he went, making Naruto feel like he was drowning in invisible chains he could never break free from. "Hey, demon!" a voice shouted from behind. Naruto turned around, already knowing who it was. A group of villagers approached him, the same ones who'd always harass him. Their faces twisted in anger, fueled by some hatred they couldn't let go. "I haven't done anything wrong," Naruto yelled, taking a step back. His fists clenched as his heart pounded in his chest. He knew where this was going. They never let him just walk away. The leader of the group, a tall, burly man, smirked. "You exist, demon. That's enough." Without warning, the man lunged at him, swinging a wooden plank. Naruto dodged, barely avoiding the strike. But there were more of them. The group surrounded him, and even though Naruto had been training in the academy, there was no way he could handle so many adults at once. They didn't hold back. Punches and kicks rained down on him as Naruto tried to defend himself. Every blow reminded him of how weak he was, how much he hated being powerless. As the beating continued, something deep inside him stirred, a feeling he couldn't explain. It wasn't Kurama, the nine-tails fox sealed within him, but something else. Something primal, ancient, and powerful. His heart raced, and his body began to feel lighter, as though it was being lifted by an unseen force. Why? Why does this always happen to me? Naruto muttered under his breath as he curled into a ball to protect himself from the blows. The leader of the mob leaned down, grabbing Naruto by his collar and lifting him off the ground. "You'll never be anything but a monster. The Hokage can't protect you forever." Naruto's body felt hot, burning from the inside out. His vision blurred, not from tears, but from an overwhelming sensation flooding his senses. The pain of the punches and kicks faded, replaced by an odd calmness. Time seemed to slow as something began to click inside his mind. A voice, not Kurama's, echoed in his head. "Do you wish for power?" The words were quiet at first, barely audible, but they grew louder with each second. "Do you want the strength to end this? To never be weak again?" Naruto's eyes snapped open, glowing with a strange, crimson hue. Energy surged through his body like a river that had been dammed for years and was now breaking free. The grip of the man holding him tightened for a moment, but then his eyes widened in fear as he felt something he couldn't explain, a pressure, a power far beyond anything he'd ever encountered. Naruto's body began to glow faintly with a silver aura, and with a single motion, he pushed the man away with such force that he was sent flying back several feet, crashing into a wall. The mob froze. They had no idea what just happened, but the sight of Naruto standing there, bathed in energy, was terrifying. It wasn't chakra. It didn't feel like anything they had ever encountered before. The villagers exchanged nervous glances, then quickly retreated, their anger replaced by fear. Naruto stood alone once again, his hands trembling, not from fear or weakness, but from the sheer force now flowing through him. The warmth in his body grew stronger, more focused. His senses sharpened to the point where he could hear the faintest whispers of the wind, feel the smallest vibrations in the ground. Every detail of the world around him became crystal clear. What is this?" Naruto asked, staring down at his hands as they pulsed with raw power. Deep inside his mind, the voice returned. "The power you desire. The strength to overcome anything. You have unlocked it." Naruto's eyes darted around, confused. He wasn't used to hearing voices that weren't Kurama's. "What do you mean? What power?" "Strength far beyond that of any ninja. The power to shatter mountains. To move faster than light. To crush any opponent. This is your true potential." Naruto felt his legs weaken for a moment, overwhelmed by the surge of energy. He fell to his knees, panting as his mind tried to process everything that had just happened. This power. It was like nothing he had ever felt before. Not even Kurama's chakra could compare. As he knelt there, still glowing with that strange energy, he heard a voice calling out to him. Naruto. Looking up, Naruto saw Iruka-sensei running toward him, his face full of concern. Iruka skidded to a stop a few feet away, eyes wide as he took in Naruto's appearance. What happened here? Iruka asked, glancing at the unconscious villagers scattered around. His gaze returned to Naruto, who was still radiating energy. I don't know, Naruto replied, his voice shaky. They were attacking me. And then something happened. This power. It just came out of nowhere. Iruka cautiously stepped closer, kneeling beside Naruto. He could feel the raw energy in the air, like standing near an intense heat source. This wasn't ordinary chakra. It felt alien, otherworldly. Naruto, we need to get you to the Hokage. Something's not right. Naruto nodded, still feeling the power surging through him. But as quickly as it had appeared, the glow around him began to fade. The intense energy that had filled him moments before dissipated, leaving him feeling strangely empty but more aware than ever. Together, they made their way to the Hokage's office, the weight of what had just happened hanging over them like a dark cloud. Naruto's mind raced, replaying the events over and over again. What was this power? Where had it come from? By the time they arrived, the Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, was already waiting for them. His wise, aged face remained calm, but there was a flicker of concern in his eyes as he saw Naruto enter the room. Sit down, Naruto, Hiruzen said, gesturing to a chair. Iruka informed me of what happened. Tell me everything. Naruto recounted the attack and how the strange power had awakened. He described the voice he had heard, the overwhelming energy that had flowed through him, and how the villagers had been thrown back by it. Every detail felt like a dream, as though it had happened to someone else. When Naruto finished, the Hokage sat in silence, deep in thought. After a long pause, he finally spoke. This is troubling. I've never heard of power like this manifesting so suddenly, especially not in someone so young. Naruto shifted nervously in his chair. Do you think it's because of Kurama? Hiruzen shook his head. Nope. This doesn't feel like the Nine Tails. This power. It's different. I'll need to investigate further. But for now, you must be careful, Naruto. If this power is as dangerous as it seems, you need to learn how to control it. But how? I don't even know what it is, Naruto exclaimed, frustrated. Hiruzen stood, walking over to the window and staring out over the village. For now, rest. We will monitor you closely and see if this power resurfaces. In the meantime, continue your training and remain vigilant. Naruto nodded, though his mind was still spinning. This power, whatever it was, had already changed everything. He had spent his entire life feeling weak, like an outcast with nothing to offer. But now he had something. Something incredible. As Naruto left the Hokage's office, he clenched his fists, feeling a faint trace of that energy still lingering within him. I'll figure this out, he whispered to himself. I'll learn to control it, and then no one will ever look down on me again. But deep down, he knew this power wasn't just something he could control. It was far greater, far more dangerous than anything he had ever imagined. And it had only just begun to awaken. As Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha, the weight of everything that had just happened hung heavily on his mind. The villagers, who had once glared at him with disgust and hatred, now kept their distance, watching him warily from afar. He could feel their eyes on him, but the fear in their gazes was new. For the first time in his life, they seemed to truly fear him. The thought should have brought Naruto some satisfaction. After all, he'd spent his entire life being ridiculed and treated like an outcast. But instead of feeling triumphant, an uneasy sensation settled in his gut. Was this how he wanted people to see him? As a monster to be feared? He shook his head, trying to rid himself of the thought. It doesn't matter. What mattered now was figuring out what this power was and how to control it. He couldn't let something so dangerous overwhelm him again. Naruto. A familiar voice called out from behind. Naruto turned to see Konohamaru running toward him, waving energetically. The kid was always so enthusiastic, always looking up to him, treating him like a hero. But today, even Konohamaru's eyes held a trace of uncertainty as he slowed to a stop in front of Naruto. "Hey, are you okay? I heard something crazy happened earlier," Konohamaru asked, his face a mixture of excitement and concern. Naruto forced a grin, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, something weird happened. But I'm fine. Just a little tired." Konohamaru frowned, clearly not convinced. But before he could press further, Naruto ruffled his hair and gave him a light shove. "Don't worry about it. Squirt. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. There's nothing I can't handle." That seemed to reassure Konohamaru. If only a little. He grinned and pumped his fist into the air. "Right? You're going to be Hokage one day. So of course you'll handle it," Naruto chuckled. But his mind was elsewhere. The power that had awakened earlier. It was nothing like the chakra he was used to. It didn't feel like the Nine Tails' influence, either. And that voice, the one that had offered him strength, it still echoed faintly in the back of his mind, like a forgotten whisper. After parting ways with Konohamaru, Naruto wandered aimlessly through the village until his feet led him to a familiar spot. The training grounds. The area was quiet, almost deserted. A few target dummies stood at the far end, worn from countless training sessions. This was the place where he usually practiced. A place where he could forget everything for a little while and just focus on getting stronger. But today, something felt different. Naruto approached one of the wooden training posts and stared at it for a moment. His mind racing. What if? He thought. What if I tried to tap into that power again? The idea both excited and terrified him. He had no idea what would happen if he tried to summon that strength. But if he was ever going to control it, he needed to understand it. Taking a deep breath, Naruto focused his mind, reaching down into the pit of his energy, searching for that same feeling he'd had earlier. At first, nothing happened. His chakra remained normal, flowing steadily through his body as it always had. But then, something stirred. A faint pulse, deep within his core, like a heartbeat, steady, powerful, and vast. Naruto's breath hitched. There it is. He reached for it, mentally tugging at the source of that energy. And just like before, the power surged through him like a tidal wave, filling every part of his body with unimaginable strength. His skin tingled, and his muscles felt like they were charged with electricity. That same silver aura from earlier surrounded him, faint at first, but growing stronger with each passing second. The training post in front of him seemed to blur, as if it were moving in slow motion. Time itself felt like it had slowed down, and Naruto could see every detail in perfect clarity. Without even thinking, he drew back his fist and punched the post. The result was immediate and explosive. The wooden post shattered into splinters with a deafening crack, the force of the blow sending a shockwave rippling through the air. The ground beneath Naruto's feet trembled, and nearby trees swayed from the impact. It was as if he had just unleashed a force far beyond his own understanding. Naruto stared at the wreckage in disbelief. That was me? He had barely put any effort into that punch. Yet the damage was immense. It was like he had been holding back his true strength his entire life. And now it was finally breaking free. Before he could process it any further, a familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. Impressive. Naruto spun around to find Kakashi Hitaki standing a few feet away, his ever-present mask and headband covering most of his face. But his single visible eye gleamed with interest. Kakashi-sensei? Naruto stammered, suddenly feeling self-conscious. Kakashi approached, his hands in his pockets, as casual as ever. I felt the disturbance from across the village. You gotten stronger. Naruto scratched the back of his head awkwardly. I don't really know what's happening. This power. It's not like my usual chakra. It's something else. Kakashi tilted his head thoughtfully. It's definitely not chakra. At least not any kind I've ever seen before. The intensity of it is on another level. Naruto frowned. Do you think it's dangerous? Kakashi considered the question for a moment, his expression serious. Power is only as dangerous as the one who wields it. If you can learn to control it, then it might become your greatest strength. But if you let it control you, it could become a curse. Naruto swallowed hard. He didn't want to be controlled by power. Not like the villagers feared. He had to master it. To make it his own. Kakashi placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, his voice softening. You don't have to figure this out alone. I'm sure the Hokage will want to keep an eye on this development. But I'll be here to help you too. Whatever this power is, you can count on us to guide you. Naruto looked up at his sensei, feeling a little more at ease. The weight of the situation still pressed on him, but knowing that he wasn't alone in facing it made it feel a little more manageable. Thanks, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said quietly. Kakashi gave a nod. But for now, I think we should call it a day. You've already done enough damage to the training grounds, he added with a teasing tone, glancing at the destroyed post. Naruto chuckled nervously. Yeah, sorry about that. As they turned to leave the training grounds, Naruto couldn't help but glance back at the shattered remains of the training post. He could still feel the lingering energy in his body, the overwhelming potential waiting just beneath the surface. This power, whatever it was, had chosen him. It was his to master. And with Kakashi's words echoing in his mind, Naruto knew that he couldn't let it control him. He had to become stronger, not just for himself, but for everyone who believed in him. I will control it, he thought, clenching his fist with renewed determination. I'll show everyone that I'm not the monster they think I am. But deep down, a small part of him still wondered. Was this power a blessing? Or a curse? As Naruto and Kakashi walked back toward the village, the weight of the new power still settled heavily on Naruto's mind. His body still buzzed with that strange energy, like a sleeping giant waiting to be unleashed again. But he couldn't afford to lose control. Not now. He had to figure out what this was and learn to use it properly. Kakashi kept glancing at him, his usual laid-back demeanor still intact. But Naruto could tell that even he was a bit concerned. The fact that Kakashi, one of the strongest shinobi in the village, was worried made the situation feel even more serious. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto began, breaking the silence. Do you think this power came from something inside me? Like, maybe it was always there? Kakashi rubbed his chin thoughtfully. It's possible. Sometimes, abilities or powers lie dormant inside a person until something triggers them. But in your case, it's strange. I've never seen anything like it. It's not tied to Kurama. And it doesn't feel like any kind of ninjutsu. Naruto frowned. So, what could have caused it? Kakashi's gaze shifted toward the sky. Stress, danger, emotional turmoil. These things can awaken hidden potential. The attack earlier today probably triggered something inside you. But the real question is, what's the nature of this power? Naruto mulled over Kakashi's words. He remembered the voice he'd heard in his head when the power first surged. That calm, almost indifferent voice had offered him strength, asking if he desired power. And in that moment, he'd accepted it, without really thinking about the consequences. They reached the village outskirts when a familiar face approached them. Sakura, running toward them with a worried expression. She skidded to a stop in front of Naruto, panting slightly. Naruto, I heard about what happened earlier. Are you okay? She asked, her green eyes searching his face. Naruto gave a small smile, trying to ease her concern. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a lot of weird stuff happening all at once. Sakura's eyes narrowed slightly. Weird stuff? Like what? Naruto hesitated for a moment, not sure how to explain everything. Well, it's hard to explain. I just kind of unlocked some new power. I don't really get it myself yet. Sakura crossed her arms, a skeptical look on her face. You mean something besides your usual chakra? What kind of power? Naruto scratched his head, unsure how to describe it. It's not like chakra, and it's not from Kurama. It's something else. Something I've never felt before. Sakura glanced at Kakashi for confirmation, and he nodded. He's telling the truth. Whatever this power is, it's not normal. We don't know the full extent of it yet. Sakura's worry deepened. Naruto, you have to be careful. What if this power hurts you? Or makes things worse? Naruto opened his mouth to respond. But before he could, something caught all of their attention. A strange, powerful presence surged through the village, an unmistakable burst of chakra that sent a chill down Naruto's spine. It was immense, like a tidal wave crashing down, and it came from the direction of the Hokage tower. Naruto's eyes widened. What the? Kakashi immediately straightened, his face tense. That chakra. It's not one of ours. Without another word, the three of them sprinted toward the Hokage tower. As they ran, the intensity of the chakra continued to grow, suffocating the air with its sheer force. Naruto felt the pressure deep in his chest, like a weight bearing down on him. When they arrived, they found the streets in chaos. Shinobi were on high alert, rushing toward the Hokage's office, where the source of the disturbance was centered. Villagers cowered in fear, unsure of what was happening. At the gates of the Hokage tower, they spotted two familiar figures. Shikamaru and Choji, both looking grim as they stood guard. Shikamaru. Naruto called out as they approached. What's going on? Shikamaru, his usual laid-back demeanor replaced with serious focus, glanced at Naruto. It's an intruder. We don't know how he got past the village's defenses, but he's incredibly strong. The Hokage is facing him now. Naruto's heart raced. Who is he? Shikamaru shook his head. No idea. He's not from any of the known villages, but his power is off the charts. The entire Anbu squad was taken down in minutes. Naruto clenched his fists. Whoever this intruder was, he had to be dealt with, fast. Without another word, he pushed past Shikamaru and dashed into the Hokage tower, Kakashi and Sakura following close behind. When they reached the top floor, the scene that greeted them sent a shiver down Naruto's spine. The Hokage's office was a wreck, windows shattered, walls cracked, and papers scattered everywhere. And in the middle of the room stood Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, facing off against a tall, muscular man clad in dark, tattered robes. The man's face was obscured by a hood, but the overwhelming power radiating from him was impossible to ignore. Hiruzen was breathing heavily, his staff gripped tightly in his hands. The stranger didn't appear to be exerting much effort at all, but the sheer force of his presence made the air feel like it was vibrating. So, this is the Hidden Leaf's legendary Hokage? The man said in a low, mocking tone. I expected more. Hiruzen gritted his teeth. Who are you? Why have you come to our village? The man chuckled. A dark, menacing sound. Names are irrelevant. I came to test the strength of this village, and to see if the rumors about the Nine Tails vessel are true. Naruto's blood ran cold. He's after me? The man's head slowly turned, his gaze locking onto Naruto. Even though his face was hidden, Naruto could feel the intensity of his stare, like a predator eyeing its prey. So, you must be the one they call Naruto Uzumaki, the man said, his voice dripping with amusement. I can sense something powerful inside you. Something that intrigues me. Naruto's fists clenched, and that strange power inside him began to stir again, like an engine revving to life. The silver aura flickered around him for a brief moment, and the intruder's head tilted slightly in interest. What? What are you talking about? Naruto asked, stepping forward. His voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. The man laughed softly. You have potential far beyond what the rest of these weaklings could ever comprehend. But you haven't fully awakened yet. Not completely. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest. What does he know? How does he know about this power? The intruder's hands began to glow with dark energy, and Hiruzen braced himself, gripping his staff tighter. Naruto, stay back. But Naruto didn't move. Something inside him told him that running wouldn't help. This power, this challenge, he couldn't escape it. He had to face it, no matter what. The man raised his hand, a swirling ball of black energy forming in his palm. Let's see how strong you really are. Nine Tails. Before he could release the attack, Naruto's entire body surged with energy, stronger than before. The silver aura exploded around him, brighter and more intense, as if responding to the threat. His muscles tensed, his senses sharpened, and time seemed to slow down again. He could feel it, the same power that had shattered the training post earlier. But now it was stronger, more focused. His body felt weightless, yet powerful beyond comprehension. Without thinking, he moved. In an instant, Naruto closed the distance between himself and the intruder, faster than anyone in the room could follow. The intruder barely had time to react as Naruto's fist connected with his chest, sending him flying through the far wall with an earth-shattering crash. The room went silent. Naruto stood there, his silver aura still blazing around him, as everyone, Kakashi, Sakura, Hiruzen, stared at him in shock. Even Naruto himself couldn't fully comprehend what had just happened. The intruder lay motionless in the rubble outside the tower, his body twitching slightly from the impact. He groaned, pushing himself up with difficulty. But the amusement in his voice remained. Well, that was unexpected. Naruto breathed heavily, his heart still pounding as the power within him slowly began to fade. He looked down at his trembling hands, realizing what he had just done. I'm not the same anymore. And for the first time, Naruto understood that this power wasn't something he could ignore. It wasn't just a fluke, or a one-time event. This was only the beginning. The room was still, the air heavy with the aftermath of Naruto's strike. His heart was racing, his fists still clenched tightly at his sides. That incredible power. The speed, the strength, it felt like a dream. But the destruction around him was very real. Everyone's eyes were on him, filled with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, slowly straightened, his old eyes narrowing at Naruto as he tried to grasp what had just happened. He had fought in countless battles, faced enemies with overwhelming power. But this was different. Naruto. Hiruzen finally spoke, his voice steady but with an undertone of surprise. Where did that power come from? Naruto didn't know how to answer. He had no idea what had just happened or how he had tapped into such immense strength. All he could feel was the strange energy still coursing through him, like a reservoir just waiting to burst again. Before he could respond, the rubble shifted, and the mysterious intruder pushed himself up with a low groan. The man stood, dust and debris falling off him. But surprisingly, he didn't seem too injured. His cloak was torn, his hood now pulled back, revealing a sharp, angular face with cold, calculating eyes. He wiped a trickle of blood from the corner of his mouth, smiling with a dark amusement. Well. The intruder said, his voice still calm despite the beating he had just taken. It seems you're full of surprises. Nine-Tails brat. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Who are you? Why are you after me? The man chuckled, his smile widening as if enjoying the tension in the air. My name is unimportant. But what you should know is that I've been searching for power, true power, and it looks like I found it. His gaze flickered over Naruto. You're no ordinary Jinchuriki, are you? Kakashi stepped forward, positioning himself between Naruto and the intruder, his Sharingan now exposed. Spinning slowly. Naruto. Stand back. This man is dangerous. Naruto didn't move. He couldn't. His instincts were screaming at him to fight, to defend the village, to protect everyone. But more than that, he needed answers. He wanted to understand this power inside him. The intruder's grin faltered slightly, sensing the tension in the air. Ah, I see. You still don't fully understand what you've unlocked, do you? He took a step forward, but Kakashi's kunai was out in an instant, his stance tense. Don't move, Kakashi warned, his voice low and dangerous. The intruder stopped, raising his hands mockingly. I mean no harm. For now, I've seen what I needed to see. His eyes shifted back to Naruto, studying him like an experiment. But know this, boy. There are forces in this world far beyond what you've ever imagined. Power that surpasses the limits of chakra and jutsu. You've merely touched the surface. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. The way this man spoke, as if he had seen things Naruto couldn't even comprehend, made his stomach twist. There was something ominous about the man's words, as if a much larger threat loomed just beyond the horizon. "I'll be back," the intruder said, his voice lowering to a near whisper. "And when I return, I hope you'll be ready to show me just how strong you've become." With a sudden surge of energy, the man disappeared in a blur, vanishing from sight. The oppressive chakra that had weighed down the air slowly dissipated, leaving an eerie silence behind. Naruto exhaled, his body still trembling from the adrenaline. His friends, Kakashi, and even the Hokage all stared at him, questions hanging in the air. But before anyone could speak, Hiruzen stepped forward, his old eyes now filled with both concern and determination. "Everyone," the third Hokage said, his voice commanding, "we must secure the village and ensure no further threats have slipped through. Shikamaru, Choji, alert the Anbu and prepare a perimeter around the Hokage tower." Shikamaru nodded, his usual lazy expression replaced by serious focus as he and Choji hurried off to follow the Hokage's orders. Once they were gone, Hiruzen turned to Naruto, his expression softening. "Naruto, you need to come with me. We have much to discuss." Naruto nodded, still feeling the weight of everything that had just happened. Without another word, he followed Hiruzen and Kakashi down a hallway toward the Hokage's private chambers. Sakura close behind. Once they reached the quiet room, the Hokage motioned for Naruto to sit. The room was filled with scrolls and maps, remnants of Hiruzen's long years as Hokage. He sat across from Naruto, his expression grave. "This power you've unlocked," Hiruzen began, folding his hands in his lap. "It's not something I've seen in any shinobi before. It's not related to Kurama, nor does it resemble any known Kekkei Genkei or bloodline limit. Do you have any idea how this power emerged?" Naruto shook his head. "No. It just happened. I was training with Kakashi-sensei when something inside me snapped. And I don't know. I just felt this energy take over. It wasn't like chakra, but it made me feel unstoppable." Kakashi, who had been leaning against the wall, crossed his arms. "Hokage-sama, could it be something tied to Naruto's lineage? His father was the fourth Hokage. After all, maybe there's something deeper in his bloodline." Hiruzen stroked his beard thoughtfully. "That could be a possibility. The Uzumaki clan is known for their immense life force and chakra reserves. But this seems beyond that." Naruto frowned, frustration bubbling inside him. "But that guy, the one who attacked, he seemed to know something about this power. He said I hadn't fully awakened yet. What did he mean by that?" The Hokage's expression darkened. "It's hard to say, but his words suggest there's more to this than we currently understand. If this power is tied to something ancient or hidden, it may take time to uncover its origins." Naruto leaned forward, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we need to figure it out. I can't just sit around waiting for answers. If this power can help me protect the village, I need to learn how to control it." Hiruzen nodded, understanding Naruto's urgency. "I agree. But we must proceed cautiously. This power, while formidable, could also be dangerous if not properly understood." Kakashi stepped forward, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Don't worry, Naruto. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone." Naruto looked up at his mentor, his frustration easing slightly at Kakashi's reassuring words. But deep down, he knew that things had changed, forever. This wasn't just about becoming stronger or learning a new jutsu. It was about understanding the power that now lived inside him. A power that had already drawn the attention of dangerous enemies. As they discussed the next steps, Naruto felt that same power stir within him again. Like a beast lying in wait. It wasn't Kurama, and it wasn't anything he could control yet. But it was there, lurking beneath the surface. And whatever it was, Naruto knew one thing for certain. The journey ahead would be unlike anything he'd ever faced before. The unknown future stretched before him, filled with both hope and danger. But no matter what came next, Naruto vowed to master this power, protect his village, and rise to meet any challenge that stood in his way. Naruto could barely sleep that night. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, spinning uncontrollably as he tried to piece together everything that had happened. The mysterious power inside him, the strange man who seemed to know more about it than he did, and the way everyone, his friends, The Hokage looked at him now, as though he were something different. He lay on his bed, staring up at the ceiling, his body still humming with that strange energy. It was like a constant vibration, just under the surface, ready to explode if he called upon it. But it wasn't chakra, not like what he'd been taught to use. It was something deeper, something primal. And it scared him. "What am I?" he whispered into the darkness of his room. Though no answer came. Outside, the village was quiet. But Naruto could still feel the weight of the day's events pressing down on him. That man, the one who attacked, said he would return. And when he did, Naruto knew he had to be ready. But how could he train for something he didn't understand? The next morning, Naruto dragged himself out of bed and made his way to the training grounds, where Kakashi had told him to meet. His steps were heavy, but his resolve was firm. He had to figure this out, had to get to the bottom of this power before it consumed him. When he arrived, he found Kakashi standing with his usual laid-back posture, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a book. His exposed eye glanced up as Naruto approached, but there was an intensity to his gaze today that Naruto hadn't seen before. "Morning, Naruto," Kakashi greeted, his voice as calm as ever. "Ready for another day of training?" Naruto nodded, though there was a weight to his response. "Yeah, but Kakashi-sensei, I don't know where to start. I can feel this power inside me, but it's not like chakra. I don't know how to control it." Kakashi closed his book and tucked it away, giving Naruto his full attention. "That's why we're here. We're going to take this one step at a time. First, I want to see if you can summon that power again, intentionally this time." Naruto blinked, unsure if he could do it on command. The power had surged out of him without warning, a reaction to the danger. But could he pull it out just by will alone? "All right," Naruto said, stepping onto the training field and taking a deep breath. "I'll give it a try." He closed his eyes, focusing inward, trying to feel for that strange energy again. At first, nothing happened. He reached deeper, trying to grab hold of it, but it was elusive, slipping through his grasp like water through his fingers. "Don't force it," Kakashi said from the sidelines. "Let it come to you naturally, like chakra." Naruto relaxed his muscles and his mind, letting go of his frustration. He took another deep breath, this time allowing himself to feel his body, to feel everything. And there it was, a flicker, deep within. He reached for it, gently this time, and felt the power stir. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open, and a wave of energy burst forth, radiating out from him like a shockwave. The ground beneath his feet cracked, and the air around him vibrated with raw force. His body glowed with a faint aura, and for a moment, he felt invincible, untouchable. Kakashi's eye widened in astonishment. This wasn't normal. The power Naruto was tapping into wasn't just strong, it was on a different level entirely. Naruto panted, trying to keep the energy under control, but it was like holding back a flood. The more he tried to focus it, the more it pushed against him, threatening to overwhelm his senses. "Good," Kakashi said, his voice calm but firm. "Now, try to rein it in. Focus on controlling the output. Just like with chakra. You need to contain it." Naruto gritted his teeth, his hands clenched into fists. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought to keep the energy from spilling out uncontrollably. His body trembled under the pressure. But slowly, very slowly, he managed to pull it back, the glowing aura around him dimming until it faded entirely. He collapsed to his knees, breathing hard, but with a small smile on his face. I did it." Kakashi walked over to him, nodding in approval. "You did. That's a good start. But this is only the beginning, Naruto. Controlling this power is going to take time." Naruto looked up, determination burning in his eyes. "I don't care how long it takes. I'll master it." Kakashi smiled under his mask. "Good. You'll need that resolve. Because if what that man said is true, there may be others like him. Others who are after your power." Naruto's expression darkened. He hadn't forgotten the intruder's words or the promise that he'd return. And if more enemies like him were out there, Naruto had to be ready. He had to protect his friends, his village, and himself. For the rest of the day, Kakashi put Naruto through rigorous training, focusing on helping him control the power. Every time Naruto tried to summon it, he got a little better at managing the overwhelming energy, though it was still far from perfect. The raw strength was there, but the finesse, the precision, was something he'd have to work on. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the training ground, Naruto collapsed onto the grass, utterly exhausted. His muscles ached, his head throbbed, and his body felt like it had been through a meat grinder. But despite the exhaustion, he felt a strange sense of accomplishment. Kakashi stood over him, his expression unreadable. "You've made good progress today. But this power of yours, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. We're going to need help." Naruto blinked, surprised. Help? From who? Kakashi looked out over the village, his gaze distant. There's someone who might know more about this than we do. Someone with experience in unusual powers. Naruto frowned, curious. Who? Kakashi turned back to him, his single visible eye serious. Jiraiya. Naruto's eyes widened. He'd heard of Jiraiya, the legendary Sannin, one of the strongest shinobi to ever come out of Konoha. But what could he know about this strange power? When will he be back? Naruto asked, sitting up. Kakashi sighed. He's not exactly easy to track down, but I'll send word. In the meantime, keep training. We'll figure this out. Naruto nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. If Jiraiya could help him understand this power, then maybe he could learn to control it before it was too late. Later that night, as Naruto lay in his bed once more, he couldn't stop thinking about what Kakashi had said. Jiraiya, the man who trained the fourth Hokage, might be able to help him. The idea filled him with excitement, but also a bit of anxiety. What if even Jiraiya didn't know what this power was? What if Naruto was stuck with something he couldn't control? He clenched his fist, feeling the energy stir faintly within him again. No, he couldn't think like that. He had to believe he could master this. For his friends. For the village. For himself. But as he drifted off to sleep, one thought kept nagging at the back of his mind. Who else was out there? Watching him? Waiting for him to awaken? Far away, in the shadows of a distant land, the man who had attacked Konoha stood atop a cliff, his eyes fixed on the horizon. His cloak fluttered in the wind, and his lips curved into a dark smile. The boy is stronger than I thought, he muttered to himself, his gaze hardening. But it's only a matter of time. Soon, he will realize the full extent of his power. And when he does, his eyes gleamed with sinister intent. I will take it for myself. The wind howled through the cliffs, swirling around the lone figure who stood perched on the jagged rocks. His cloak whipped in the air, the sharp edges of his dark silhouette cutting through the fading light of dusk. The mysterious man who had attacked Konoha was deep in thought, his eyes narrowing as he replayed the events of his encounter with Naruto. That boy, he muttered under his breath, fingers curling into a fist. He's stronger than I expected. But it's still only the beginning. He hasn't fully awakened yet. The man's mind wandered back to the moment he had felt the surge of power radiate from Naruto. Raw, untamed, but undeniably vast. It wasn't just chakra. It was something more. Something ancient. The very essence of strength. He may have power, but without control, it's useless. The man continued to muse, a dark smile creeping onto his face. He'll stumble. He'll falter. And when he does, I'll be there to take it all. Behind him, another figure emerged from the shadows, clad in a similar dark cloak. You're playing a dangerous game, Zorin, the voice said, low and gravelly. Zorin, the mysterious attacker, didn't turn to acknowledge the presence. His eyes remained fixed on the horizon. Dangerous? He scoffed. Only for the boy. The cloaked figure stepped closer, the faint glint of a blade visible beneath their cloak. You underestimate him. That power, it's unlike anything we've encountered before. Zorin finally turned, his eyes flashing with irritation. Do you think I'm unaware of that? That's precisely why I need it. If the boy awakens fully, he could become a threat to our plans. We can't afford to let him grow stronger. The figure was silent for a moment, contemplating Zokarin's words. So what's your next move? Attack him again? Zokarin's smile returned. More wicked than before. Not yet. Let him think he's safe. Let him grow comfortable. He'll train. He'll push himself. And in doing so, he'll only draw out more of that power. I want him at his peak. That's when we'll strike. The figure gave a curt nod, understanding the plan. And the village? Zorin waved his hand dismissively. The village is irrelevant. Konoha will fall easily once we've stripped him of his power. The boy is the key. Nothing else matters. With that, the cloaked figure retreated into the darkness, leaving Zorin alone once more. He turned his gaze back to the fading light, his eyes burning with ambition. The power of a god in the hands of a mere child. Soon, it will belong to me. Back in Konoha, Naruto was still processing the whirlwind of emotions that had enveloped him over the past few days. Training with Kakashi had pushed him to his limits. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. The power inside him was still largely a mystery. And without understanding it, he felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between control and chaos. As he made his way through the village streets, he noticed how people were beginning to look at him differently. Whispers followed him wherever he went. Some filled with awe, others with fear. Naruto had always been used to being the outcast, the demon child of the village. But this was different. Now, there was uncertainty in their eyes. Like they didn't know if he was a hero or something far more dangerous. Even his friends, Sakura, Shikamaru, Choji, looked at him with a mixture of concern and curiosity. They could feel it too. The change in him. The way the air seemed to crackle with unseen energy when he was near. Naruto sighed, rubbing the back of his neck as he approached the training grounds once more. He had promised himself he wouldn't stop until he fully mastered this power. But the weight of that promise was beginning to press down on him. He didn't want to hurt anyone. Oi, Naruto. A familiar voice called out. Naruto looked up to see Shikamaru lounging under a tree, his usual bored expression on his face. Choji was beside him, munching on a bag of chips, while Sakura stood nearby, arms crossed as she watched Naruto approach. You've been training non-stop, Shikamaru said, sitting up slightly. Even for you. That's a little overkill. Don't you think? Naruto grinned, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Gotta stay sharp. Don't know when that creep is coming back. Sakura frowned, stepping closer. Naruto, you don't have to do this alone. We're all worried about you. This new power. It's dangerous. Isn't it? Naruto's smile faded. Yeah. I think it is. But if I can control it, I can use it to protect all of you. I won't let anyone hurt this village. Choji stopped mid-chew, his usually cheerful face turning serious. You're strong, Naruto. But you're not invincible. What if this power starts controlling you? Naruto's chest tightened at Choji's words. He hadn't really thought about that. What if the power became too much for him to handle? What if, in his quest to master it, he lost control and became the very thing he feared? I won't let that happen, Naruto said firmly, though the uncertainty lingered in his mind. Shikamaru stood up, brushing the dirt off his pants. Then you'll need to be smarter about it. Overwhelming power is great, but without strategy, it'll crush you. We'll help you figure this out, Naruto. You're not doing this alone. Naruto's heart swelled with gratitude. But before he could respond, a figure appeared on the horizon, approaching the training grounds. Looks like I got here just in time, the voice called out. Naruto blinked, his eyes widening in surprise as the figure came into view. It was an older man, with long, spiky white hair and a wide grin plastered on his face. His presence was unmistakable. Pervy sage. Naruto yelled, unable to hide his excitement. Jiraiya, the legendary Sannin, strode into the clearing with his usual swagger, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Heard you've been stirring up some trouble, kid. Figured it was time I paid a visit. Sakura's expression turned exasperated, while Shikamaru simply sighed. Great. It's Jiraiya. Jiraiya chuckled, ruffling Naruto's hair as he reached him. I got word from Kakashi about your little power surge. Seems you've gotten yourself mixed up in something big. Naruto nodded, feeling a renewed sense of hope. If anyone could help him understand this power, it was Jiraiya. So, what do you know about it? Naruto asked, looking up at his mentor eagerly. Jiraiya's grin faded slightly, his expression turning serious. I don't know everything yet, but from what Kakashi's told me, this isn't something you'll find in any shinobi handbook. This power of yours. It's older than the shinobi world itself, and that makes it dangerous. Naruto swallowed hard, the weight of those words sinking in. But don't worry, Jiraiya continued, slapping Naruto on the back with a grin. You've got the best teacher in the world. After all, we'll figure it out. Together. Naruto grinned back, feeling lighter than he had in days. With Jiraiya's help, maybe, just maybe, he could unravel the mystery of this power and use it for good. But deep down, he knew the road ahead would be long, filled with challenges he couldn't yet foresee. As the sun began to set over Konoha, Naruto, Jiraiya, and his friends stood together, ready for whatever came next. The threat of Zorin still loomed on the horizon, but Naruto's determination had never been stronger. Whatever this power was, whatever it meant for his future, he wouldn't let it control him. He would master it, no matter what. As night fell over Konoha, the village seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The lights of the village flickered like stars against the deepening twilight. But at the training grounds, Naruto and Jiraiya were just getting started. The legendary Sannin watched his pupil with a keen eye, noting the way Naruto's chakra seemed to pulse with a force entirely separate from the usual energy he'd come to expect from him. Even the Kyuubi's chakra paled in comparison to this. All right, Naruto, Jiraiya said, standing across from him in the open field. We're going to start simple. I need you to call on this power. Just a small bit. Don't push too far, or it could overwhelm you. Naruto frowned, concentrating. It doesn't work like that, pervy sage. It just happens. You know? Jiraiya folded his arms, narrowing his eyes. Then we'll need to figure out a trigger. Everything has one. Whether it's chakra, emotions, or even instinct. You've got to understand what causes this power to come out. If you don't, it'll control you. Naruto nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes, trying to remember the moment when the power surged forth during the attack on Konoha. He could still feel it, the immense weight, the raw strength, the overwhelming force. But it was slippery, like trying to hold water in his hands. Come on. Naruto whispered, focusing harder. Jiraiya watched intently, sensing a subtle shift in the air around them. Naruto's chakra signature began to swell, growing denser and more intense. The ground beneath him trembled ever so slightly, the leaves rustling as if stirred by an invisible wind. There it is, Jiraiya thought to himself. It's coming. But just as quickly as the sensation built, it faded again. Naruto's eyes snapped open in frustration. I can't control it. It's like it doesn't want to come out when I call for it. Jiraiya stroked his chin thoughtfully. This might be more complicated than I thought. But we're not giving up. You've tapped into this power before, and I'm betting it's tied to your emotions. When you were protecting the village, you weren't just thinking about power. You were thinking about the people you care about. Your friends, your comrades. Naruto's eyes widened slightly as he recalled that moment. He had been desperate to protect everyone, to stop Zorin from causing more harm. His frustration, his anger, his desire to keep Konoha safe. All of that had surged through him like a flood. So, I need to focus on that? Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded. In a way, emotions are powerful. But if you let them run wild, they can be dangerous. You need to harness them, focus them. That's how you'll control this power. Naruto clenched his fists, determination etched on his face. He could do this. He had to. All right, pervy sage. Let's try again. This time, Naruto closed his eyes and pictured his friends, Sakura, Shikamaru, Choji, Kakashi, and the village that had become his home. He remembered the pain he'd felt when Konoha was attacked, the fear that gripped his heart at the thought of losing everything. That emotion began to bubble up again. But instead of letting it overwhelm him, Naruto forced himself to stay calm. The air around him started to hum with energy once more. Jiraiya watched, feeling the surge of power radiating from Naruto. It wasn't chaotic like before. This time, it was more controlled, focused. "That's it," Jiraiya encouraged. "Keep going." Suddenly, the ground cracked beneath Naruto's feet. His chakra flared. But it was different. There was something more to it now. Something deeper. Jiraiya's eyes widened in amazement. This wasn't just Naruto's chakra anymore. This was the raw strength he had sensed earlier. The power that rivaled anything in the shinobi world. A small crater formed around Naruto. Dust and debris rising into the air as his power built. His muscles tensed. And his eyes opened, glowing faintly with the intensity of his energy. But then, just as quickly as it came, the power receded again. Naruto collapsed to one knee, panting heavily, sweat dripping down his face. "Damn it. I can't hold on to it," he muttered between breaths. Jiraiya walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did good, Naruto. That was more controlled than last time. But it's still not enough," Naruto said, frustration seeping into his voice. "How am I supposed to master this power if I can't even keep it from slipping away?" Jiraiya crouched down beside him. "Mastering something like this doesn't happen overnight. You're dealing with a force that's beyond anything you've ever experienced. It'll take time, patience." Naruto clenched his fists. Time. Patience. Those were the last things he wanted to hear. But deep down, he knew Jiraiya was right. Before he could respond, they both felt a sudden presence approaching. Jiraiya immediately stood, his expression shifting to one of seriousness. "Looks like we've got company," Jiraiya said. Naruto got to his feet, his eyes scanning the darkness. A figure emerged from the shadows of the trees, stepping into the clearing with a slow, deliberate stride. It was Zorin. "You again?" Naruto growled, his body tensing. Zorin smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You've been busy. I see. But you're still not ready. That power inside you. You're barely scratching the surface." Jiraiya moved in front of Naruto, his stance protective. "What do you want, Zorin?" Zorin tilted his head slightly, as if considering the question. "I want what's mine. The power he holds doesn't belong to him. It was never meant for someone like him." Naruto's fists tightened, anger bubbling to the surface. "You don't know anything about me," Zorin chuckled darkly. "Oh, I know more than you think, boy. But it's irrelevant. Soon, I'll take that power from you. And then you'll be nothing." Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. "You won't touch him." Zorin's smile widened. "We'll see." In an instant, Zorin's figure blurred as he launched himself forward, faster than Naruto had ever seen before. Jiraiya reacted just as quickly, moving to intercept. But Zorin was already upon them, his hand outstretched toward Naruto's chest. There was a brief flash of light. And then, boom! The shockwave from the impact sent dust and debris flying in all directions. When the dust settled, Naruto stood at the center of the crater, panting heavily, his body shaking. Zorin had been thrown back, skidding to a stop several feet away. Naruto looked down at his hands, still trembling. That power, it had come out again. But this time, it had felt different. More controlled. More focused. Zorin wiped a trickle of blood from the corner of his mouth, his eyes burning with rage. "You're stronger than I thought," he growled, standing to his feet. "But this isn't over." With a flicker of movement, Zorin disappeared into the night, leaving Naruto and Jiraiya standing in the aftermath of the brief but intense encounter. Naruto exhaled shakily, his heart pounding in his chest. He had barely tapped into that power again. But it was enough to push Zorin back. Maybe he was starting to get the hang of it. Maybe, just maybe, he could control it after all. Jiraiya clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Looks like you're making progress, kid." Naruto gave a small, tired smile. "Yeah, I guess so." But deep down, he knew that this was only the beginning. The power inside him was still a mystery, and Zorin wasn't going to stop until he took it for himself. Naruto clenched his fists, determination burning in his chest. He wouldn't let that happen. No matter what. The next morning, Naruto woke up with his muscles aching from the strain of the previous night's training and encounter. The power he'd unleashed had taken a toll on him, and his body felt like it had been through a war. But there was a flicker of excitement deep inside him too. A sense of progress. He was getting closer to controlling whatever was inside him. After washing up, Naruto made his way out of his apartment, the morning light casting long shadows across the village. As he stepped into the streets, he noticed people going about their day as usual. They hadn't seen or felt what happened last night. The battle between him and Zorin. The strange power he was trying to control. But even though things looked normal, Naruto felt different. "Yo! Naruto!" A familiar voice called out. Naruto turned to see Shikamaru leaning against a fence nearby. His usual lazy expression plastered across his face. Behind him were Choji and Ino, both watching Naruto with curious eyes. "You look like you barely slept," Shikamaru commented, yawning as he stretched his arms over his head. "What's been going on?" Naruto scratched the back of his head, trying to come up with something that wouldn't raise too many questions. You know. Training. It's been intense." Choji grinned, taking a bite of his snack. "Sounds like typical Naruto stuff. Pushing yourself too hard? You could say that," Naruto replied with a small smile. Ino tilted her head, examining him carefully. "You're acting kind of weird. More serious than usual." Naruto waved his hands dismissively. "Nah. I'm fine. Just got a lot on my mind. That's all." Shikamaru raised an eyebrow but didn't press any further. "Well, whatever. You've been busy lately, so we haven't seen much of you. You up for hanging out later? It's been forever since we had a break." Naruto hesitated, knowing he should continue training and trying to get a handle on his new power. But at the same time, the thought of spending time with his friends felt comforting, like a reminder of normalcy amidst the chaos brewing inside him. "Yeah. Sure." Naruto finally agreed. "After some more training, I'll catch up with you guys." With that, the group said their goodbyes, and Naruto continued his walk toward the training grounds, where Jiraiya was already waiting. As Naruto approached, he saw Jiraiya standing with his arms crossed, an unusually serious expression on his face. Something felt off. Naruto could sense the tension in the air, the heaviness that clung to Jiraiya's demeanor. "What's wrong, pervy sage?" Naruto asked as he jogged up to him. Jiraiya didn't respond immediately. His eyes were focused on something far beyond the horizon, and it took a few moments before he spoke. "Zorin," he said, his voice low. "He's not just some random rogue ninja. I did some digging last night. This guy is dangerous, more dangerous than I initially thought." Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" Jiraiya turned to face Naruto, his expression grim. "Zorin is tied to some ancient forces, ones that go way back. It seems like he's after more than just you, Naruto. He's been collecting powers from all over the world, absorbing abilities, and your power, the one you're tapping into, might be the final piece he needs." Naruto's heart raced. "So, he's not going to stop coming after me?" Jiraiya nodded. "Exactly. And the more you use this power, the more it'll attract him. That's why we need to speed things up. You need to learn how to control this. Fast." Naruto swallowed hard. "How are we supposed to do that? I can barely hold onto it for a few seconds before it slips away." Jiraiya uncrossed his arms and walked over to Naruto, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We're going to push your training harder than ever. You've got the potential to control this power, but it's going to take everything you've got. You can't hold back anymore." Naruto met Jiraiya's eyes, determination flaring up within him. "I'm ready. Whatever it takes, I'll do it." The two of them spent the next few hours pushing Naruto's limits. Jiraiya instructed Naruto to keep focusing on his emotions, channeling them, but not letting them overwhelm him. It was a delicate balance, one that required precision and control, and Naruto struggled to find that equilibrium. Each time he called on the power, it surged through him like a tidal wave, threatening to drown him in its intensity. His body would tremble, the ground beneath him cracking under the weight of the energy he released. But as soon as he tried to control it, It slipped through his fingers like sand. Frustration mounted. Sweat poured down his face, and his muscles screamed in protest. But Naruto refused to give up. Every time he fell, he got back up, trying again and again. Jiraiya watched with a mixture of pride and concern. He could see that Naruto was growing stronger. There was no doubt about that. But this power was dangerous. And every time Naruto tapped into it, he could sense the strain it was putting on the boy's body and mind. Hours passed. And eventually, Naruto collapsed to the ground, completely exhausted. His chest heaved as he struggled to catch his breath, his body trembling with fatigue. Jiraiya crouched down beside him. "That's enough for today, Naruto. You've made progress, but you need to rest." Naruto wanted to protest, but he knew Jiraiya was right. His body felt like it was about to give out, and if he kept pushing, he might do more harm than good. As they prepared to leave the training grounds, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. Zorin was still out there, and now that he knew Naruto was getting stronger, it was only a matter of time before he made his next move. "Pervy Sage," Naruto said quietly as they walked. "Do you really think I can beat him?" Jiraiya paused, looking down at his pupil with a serious expression. "If you master that power, Naruto, you might be the only one who can." Naruto nodded, his resolve hardening. He didn't have all the answers yet, and he still had a long way to go. But one thing was certain. He wouldn't let Zorin win. He would protect Konoha, his friends, and everyone he cared about, no matter what. Later that night, as Naruto lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, his thoughts kept drifting back to the power within him. What was it? Really? Where had it come from? And why did Zorin want it so badly? His eyelids grew heavy, and soon, sleep began to claim him. But just before he drifted off, Naruto felt a faint, almost imperceptible pulse deep within him. It was the power, quiet now, but still there, lurking beneath the surface. Naruto smiled slightly in his sleep. He was getting closer. And one day, he would control it. Completely. The next morning, Naruto woke up with the same lingering sensation. A faint pulse of the immense power lying dormant inside him. It was quiet now, like a distant storm gathering strength. He rubbed his eyes and got out of bed, feeling a mix of excitement and unease. The power was there. But how long until he could truly wield it without fear of losing control? Naruto quickly got ready and made his way to the training grounds again. He had to push himself harder today. No matter how much it hurt, he couldn't afford to fall behind with Zorin still lurking in the shadows. The rogue ninja had tasted a fragment of Naruto's strength. But the next time they met, Naruto wanted to be fully prepared. When he arrived, Jiraiya was already there. Pacing back and forth, deep in thought, the Sannin looked up as Naruto approached, giving him a brief nod of acknowledgement. "Ready for more, Naruto?" Jiraiya asked, his tone serious. Naruto nodded, determination burning in his eyes. "Yeah. I've gotta master this power before Zorin makes his next move." Jiraiya studied Naruto for a moment before speaking. "I've been thinking. This power you've tapped into, it's not just a chakra boost. It's something deeper, raw physical strength combined with energy that doesn't seem to come from any traditional source. It's like you're drawing from something beyond the limits of normal shinobi." Naruto frowned, trying to make sense of Jiraiya's words. "So, it's not like the Kyuubi's chakra?" "No." Jiraiya shook his head. "It's different. The Kyuubi's chakra is potent. But this, it feels ancient, almost primordial. It's power in its purest form. And that's what makes it so dangerous. If you don't learn to control it, it could destroy you from the inside out." Naruto clenched his fists. He had been able to feel that raw, overwhelming power too. Every time it surfaced, it was like a massive weight pressing down on him. And if he let his guard down for even a moment, it would crush him. "Then what do I need to do?" Naruto asked. "How do I control something like that?" Jiraiya walked over to a nearby boulder and sat down, gesturing for Naruto to join him. "First, you need to understand the nature of this power. I believe it's tied to your emotions. The stronger your feelings, the stronger the power becomes. But that's also its biggest weakness. If your emotions get out of control, the power will become uncontrollable too. Naruto frowned, thinking back to when the power first awakened. It had been during the heat of battle, when he was desperate to protect everyone from Zorin's attack. His anger and fear had triggered the surge of strength. It made sense now. But that also meant he had to be careful. I get it, Naruto said slowly. So, I need to stay calm, even when I'm using it. Jiraiya nodded. Exactly. It's like walking a tightrope. Too much emotion, and you fall into chaos. Too little, and you lose the connection to the power. You have to find the balance. Naruto stood up, ready to start. All right, let's try again. For the next several hours, Naruto and Jiraiya worked tirelessly, focusing on harnessing the mysterious power with precision. Naruto pushed himself harder than ever, concentrating on his emotions, trying to keep them steady while drawing on the power within. At first, it was like trying to hold back a raging river. But slowly, Naruto began to feel some progress. The ground trembled beneath his feet, but the chaos wasn't as wild as before. He could feel the immense strength flowing through his body, his muscles tightening with energy. This time, it didn't overwhelm him. Jiraiya stood nearby, watching with a sharp eye. Good, Naruto. You're controlling it better. Keep going. Naruto gritted his teeth, pushing himself further. The air around him began to shimmer, as if reality itself was bending under the force of his power. Sweat dripped down his face, but he stayed focused, refusing to let his emotions slip out of control. Then, suddenly, the ground cracked beneath him, and a massive surge of energy exploded outward. Naruto gasped, falling to one knee as the power once again slipped from his grasp. Jiraiya rushed over, helping Naruto to his feet. That's enough for now. You made progress, but you're still pushing too hard. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow, frustration bubbling up inside him. I was so close. I could feel it. Pervy sage. I almost had it. Jiraiya placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You're improving faster than I expected. But remember, it's not just about raw power. Controlling this is like mastering an art. It takes time, patience, and discipline. Naruto let out a breath, nodding reluctantly. He knew Jiraiya was right. But that didn't make it any less frustrating. Zorin wouldn't wait forever, and Naruto had to be ready when he returned. As they prepared to leave the training grounds, Naruto glanced over at Jiraiya. Do you really think Zorin will come back soon? Jiraiya's expression darkened. I have no doubt. He knows how powerful you're becoming, and that makes you a threat to whatever plans he has. He's not going to sit back and let you get stronger. Naruto clenched his fists, his resolve hardening. He couldn't let Zorin hurt anyone else. Not Konoha. Not his friends. Not anyone. He had to master this power. There was no other choice. That night, as Naruto lay in bed, his mind raced with thoughts of Zorin, the power inside him, and the training he still had to do. Sleep didn't come easily. But when it did, his dreams were filled with flashes of light and sound, echoes of battles yet to come. The next few days passed in a blur of intense training. Each time Naruto tapped into the power, he felt himself getting a little closer to understanding it. He could feel the strength in his muscles, the way his body seemed to hum with energy, and he could hold onto it for longer now before it slipped away. But there was still something missing, some final piece of the puzzle that he couldn't quite grasp. Then, on the third night after the intense training session with Jiraiya, something happened. Naruto was standing in the middle of the training grounds, staring up at the night sky, lost in thought. The stars twinkled above him, and the air was cool and still. He had come here alone, hoping that maybe, with some quiet time to himself, he could figure out what he was missing. Suddenly, he felt a presence. It was faint at first, but then it grew stronger, familiar and menacing. Naruto spun around, his heart racing. And there, standing at the edge of the training grounds, was Zorin. Long time no see, Naruto, Zorin said with a smirk, his voice dripping with malice. Naruto's body tensed. He could feel the power inside him start to stir, responding to the danger in front of him. But this time, he didn't let it take control. He remained calm, steady. I figured you'd show up again, Naruto said. narrowing his eyes. "What do you want this time?" Zokurin's smirk widened. "What do I want? I want what's mine. The power you've been playing with. It doesn't belong to you. But don't worry. I'll take it off your hands soon enough." Naruto felt a surge of anger. But he quickly reined it in. He couldn't afford to lose control now. Not with Zokurin standing right in front of him. "You're not taking anything," Naruto said, his voice firm. "This power is mine. And I'm going to use it to protect everyone, especially from scum like you." Zokurin's eyes flashed with amusement. Bold words. Let's see if you can back them up. In an instant, Zokurin moved. Faster than Naruto had expected. But this time, Naruto was ready. He called on the power inside him. But this time, he didn't let it explode outward uncontrollably. He kept it focused, harnessed, letting it flow through him like a river. The air around him crackled with energy as his muscles tensed, his body humming with power. Zokurin's attack came in fast. But Naruto moved even faster. He dodged the blow, countering with a punch that sent shockwaves rippling through the air. Zokurin barely managed to block it. Skidding back several feet, Naruto stood tall, his eyes glowing faintly with the intensity of the power coursing through him. This time, he was in control. And he wasn't going to lose. Zokurin's smirk faded, replaced with a scowl of frustration. "So, you've gotten stronger. But you're still not strong enough." Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the power surging through him. But this time, it wasn't overwhelming. He could control it. He could fight with it. "I'm just getting started," Naruto said, his voice low and determined. Zokurin's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." And with that, the two of them launched into battle, their clashes shaking the very earth beneath them. But this time, Naruto wasn't fighting alone. He had the power, and the controlto turned the tide of the battle in his favor. Naruto's punches landed with the force of 1,000 suns, each strike resonating with the raw energy flowing through him. He felt like a juggernaut, unyielding and resolute. Zokurin attempted to retaliate, his movements sharp and aggressive, but Naruto anticipated each attack, countering with newfound speed and agility. "Not bad, Naruto." Zokurin grunted as he barely dodged another of Naruto's powerful jabs. "But you'll need more than this to keep up with me." With a roar, Zokurin surged forward, unleashing a flurry of strikes that tested Naruto's resolve. Naruto dodged and weaved, channeling the energy within him to boost his reflexes. He had to remind himself to stay calm, even as Zokurin's fists whistled past his head, barely missing. As Zokurin unleashed a particularly wild punch, Naruto spotted an opening. Channeling the energy through his legs, he launched himself into the air, performing a backflip to evade the blow. He landed gracefully a few feet away, the ground cracking beneath him from the force of his landing. "Now it's my turn," Naruto shouted, gathering energy into his fists. He felt the aura surrounding him intensify, pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. Rasengan, the sphere of energy formed instantly, swirling with a blue light that illuminated the night. He charged at Zokurin, who barely had time to react. With a powerful thrust, Naruto smashed the Rasengan into Zokurin's midsection. The impact echoed like thunder, and Zokurin was sent hurtling backward, crashing into a nearby tree, splintering it into pieces. Naruto watched as Zokurin struggled to regain his footing, a surprised expression crossing his face. "Impressive," Zokurin wheezed, wiping the blood from his mouth. "But I'm just getting warmed up." Naruto felt a surge of confidence but didn't let it distract him. He was ready for whatever Zokurin had planned. The rogue ninja gritted his teeth and vanished in a blur, reappearing directly in front of Naruto. This time, Zokurin unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each one more powerful than the last. Naruto dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the deadly projectiles. But one of them grazed his arm, leaving a painful burn. He grimaced but kept moving, darting around Zokurin with incredible speed. "I can't let him catch me off guard," Naruto thought, focusing on his breathing, drawing on the calm energy within him. He needed to find a way to counter Zokurin's attacks without losing control. "Rasen Shuriken!" Naruto shouted, forming the massive, spinning shuriken of wind and chakra. The energy swirled violently, and he launched it toward Zokurin with all his might. Zokurin's eyes widened as he prepared to counter. But it was too late. The Rasen Shuriken struck him head-on, exploding in a brilliant flash of light. The shockwave knocked Naruto back, but he quickly regained his footing, his heart racing with exhilaration. When the dust cleared, Zokurin was on one knee, breathing heavily, his face twisted in rage and disbelief. "You think you can defeat me with just that?" he growled, forcing himself to stand. "I'm just getting started." The air around Zokurin began to shimmer with dark energy, a clear indication that he was tapping into something far more sinister. "I won't hold back any longer." Zokurin's body glowed ominously as he unleashed a powerful wave of energy that radiated outward. Naruto braced himself, feeling the sheer force of Zokurin's power slam into him, pushing him back. The ground beneath him cracked as he struggled to maintain his balance. "You think you can scare me?" Naruto shouted over the tumult, channeling the power inside him to bolster his defenses. He refused to back down, drawing upon his own energy. "I faced worse than you." With a fierce determination, Naruto summoned his chakra, amplifying it with the mysterious energy he had been learning to control. He felt the energy swirl within him, reaching a boiling point. It surged through his veins, igniting every fiber of his being. "Let's finish this," he yelled, surging forward once more, propelled by a combination of his own chakra and the power that had awakened within him. As he neared Zokurin, Naruto unleashed a new technique, one he had been experimenting with during his training. He concentrated the energy into his fists, forming a dazzling blue aura that radiated like the sun. Divine Strike. Naruto roared, launching himself at Zokurin with incredible speed. The air crackled with energy as he delivered a devastating blow, one that combined his raw power with the controlled energy he had learned to harness. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the surroundings. The force of the blow knocked Zokurin off his feet, sending him crashing to the ground. The energy surged around Naruto, brightening the night sky as he stood tall, victorious for the moment. Breathing heavily, Naruto looked down at Zokurin, who struggled to rise, his expression one of shock and disbelief. You shouldn't have been able to do that," he stammered, a mixture of anger and admiration in his voice. "You underestimated me," Naruto replied, his tone steady. "This power is mine now, and I won't let you take it away." With a pained growl, Zokurin pushed himself up, clearly wounded but not yet ready to give in. "You think this is over? I won't lose to you, Naruto." But Naruto could see the cracks in Zokurin's confidence. This battle was turning in his favor, and he wasn't about to let the rogue ninja regain the upper hand. "Just give up," Naruto shouted, channeling the energy once more, ready to unleash another powerful attack. Zokurin, however, wasn't finished yet. With a fierce determination, he gathered the last of his strength and unleashed a desperate wave of dark energy, aiming to consume Naruto in its chaos. Naruto felt the overwhelming pressure of Zokurin's attack bearing down on him, and in that moment, he knew he had to dig deeper. He reached within himself, feeling the vast well of power, and for the first time, he embraced it completely. "Rasengan!" he cried out, melding his own attack with the raw energy that pulsed within him. The two forces collided, a blinding flash of light erupting as the energy clashed violently. The shockwave shattered the landscape, but Naruto stood firm, resolute in his determination. He wouldn't be overpowered this time. He wouldn't lose. As the dust settled, the aftermath of the explosive confrontation revealed a scene of devastation. Naruto stood tall, breathing heavily, while Zokurin lay defeated, the dark energy dissipating into the air. You really did it," Zokurin gasped, his confidence shattered. "You're not just a fool after all." Naruto, still buzzing with adrenaline, took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle in. "This is just the beginning," he said, glancing around at the destruction. "I'm going to protect everyone. And if you come back, I'll be ready." Zokurin slowly pushed himself up, his eyes narrowing with anger. "You think you've won? This isn't over, Naruto. I'll return, stronger than ever." Naruto nodded, feeling the truth in Zokurin's words. This wouldn't be the last he saw of the rogue ninja. But for now, he had won. He had faced a powerful enemy and emerged victorious. As Zorin faded into the shadows, Naruto stood alone in the training grounds, the weight of his new powers settling around him like a cloak. He could feel the energy still coursing through him, alive and vibrant. "I'll master this power," Naruto vowed, looking up at the stars. "And I'll be ready for whatever comes next." He turned and walked back toward the village, each step filled with newfound resolve. He had faced his fears, pushed his limits, and come out stronger. Now, with this new power in his arsenal, he could protect his friends and his home. But deep down, Naruto knew that this was only the beginning. Zorin would be back, and he needed to be prepared. The world was filled with dangers beyond what he could imagine, and he was determined to stand against them all. With a fire ignited in his heart, Naruto ran toward the village, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. He wouldn't just fight to survive, he would fight to thrive. And with the power of Jiren awakened within him, he was ready to face the world head-on. As Naruto sprinted through the familiar streets of Konoha, he felt the weight of his recent battle settle on his shoulders. The exhilaration of victory pulsed through him, but there was also a deep sense of responsibility. The encounter with Zorin had opened his eyes to just how dangerous the world could be, and how crucial it was for him to be prepared for any future threats. He dashed past the training grounds, each stride fueling his determination. The villagers greeted him with warm smiles and waves, but he felt a subtle distance between them and himself, as if they couldn't quite grasp the new strength coursing through his veins. He was no longer just Naruto Uzumaki, the carefree ninja. He was a force to be reckoned with, one who carried the potential of an unimaginable power. "Hey, Naruto," called out a familiar voice. It was Sakura, her pink hair bouncing as she hurried to catch up with him. "Where have you been? You missed training this morning." "I had a little side mission," Naruto replied, forcing a grin. He didn't want to worry her with the details of his confrontation with Zorin. "At least not yet. But I'm back now. What's going on?" Sakura narrowed her eyes, sensing something was off. "You look a bit different. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just feeling energized," he said, trying to brush it off. He felt a rush of excitement every time he thought about his new abilities, but he also sensed that they came with a hefty burden. "All right, but you'd better not push yourself too hard," Sakura said, her tone softening. "We need to work together if we're going to get stronger as a team." Naruto nodded, appreciating her concern. He couldn't let her down. "Of course. Let's go train." As they reached the training ground, Sasuke was already there. His back turned as he practiced his shuriken techniques. He glanced over his shoulder when he heard their approach, his expression unreadable. "Hey, Naruto," he said, his tone neutral. "You're late." "I had to take care of something important," Naruto replied, feeling a rush of energy course through him. "But I'm here now, and I'm ready to train." Sasuke raised an eyebrow, noticing the spark in Naruto's eyes. "You seem different. Did you finally learn how to focus?" Naruto smirked, his confidence swelling. "You could say that. I've got some new tricks up my sleeve. Just wait until you see them." Sasuke stepped forward, a hint of a challenge in his gaze. "Show me what you've got, then." Naruto felt the familiar thrill of competition ignite in his chest. He stood tall, channeling the energy within him, the remnants of his recent battle fueling his determination. "All right? Just don't cry when I beat you." With that, the two of them launched into a sparring session. The clash of their techniques echoed through the training ground, each movement filled with power and purpose. Naruto felt exhilarated as he unleashed his new strength, executing jutsu with a fluidity that surprised even him. As they fought, he could see Sasuke adapting to his movements, countering his attacks with precise strikes. It was a dance of raw energy, two shinobi pushing each other to their limits. But with each exchange, Naruto felt the latent power within him surging, urging him to go even further. In a sudden burst of inspiration, he decided to unveil a new technique. Gathering energy into his fists, he charged at Sasuke, a grin plastered on his face. Rasen Shuriken. As he threw the massive spiraling attack, it zipped towards Sasuke, who expertly dodged it. But Naruto wasn't done yet. With a flick of his wrist, He used his newfound energy to alter its trajectory, sending it spiraling back at Sasuke. Caught off guard, Sasuke barely managed to avoid it, rolling to the side as the Rasen Shuriken exploded behind him. What the? Naruto laughed, the thrill of his newfound abilities lighting up his spirit. Pretty cool, right? Sasuke narrowed his eyes, impressed despite himself. Not bad. But you'll need more than that to keep up with me. As the sparring continued, Naruto felt his body moving almost on instinct, each strike more powerful than the last. It was as if he were dancing, weaving through their battle with a newfound grace. He began to understand that the energy he had unlocked from Jiren wasn't just about raw power. It was also about control, precision, and strategy. Suddenly, Sakura jumped into the fray, using her own formidable strength to assist Naruto in a coordinated attack against Sasuke. Together, they fought with an unbreakable bond, each complementing the other's moves. Sasuke found himself on the defensive, narrowly avoiding a barrage of punches and shuriken. You two are working together now? He said, gritting his teeth. Fine, I'll show you what teamwork really means. With a burst of speed, Sasuke turned the tables, executing his own powerful techniques to counter their attacks. The three of them fought in a whirlwind of energy and movement, each moment building towards something greater. Finally, after what felt like hours, they all collapsed onto the ground, panting and laughing, the thrill of the battle hanging in the air. That was amazing. Sakura said, wiping the sweat from her brow. I didn't know you had it in you. Naruto, I'm just getting started. Naruto grinned, his heart racing with excitement. I can feel it, I'm stronger than ever. Sasuke, still catching his breath, looked at Naruto with a newfound respect. You've really pushed yourself. I can see the change in you. Yeah. Well, I've had some help, Naruto said, his thoughts drifting back to the energy that had awakened within him. He wanted to share his secret with his friends but hesitated, unsure of how they might react. Just then, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the training ground. Naruto felt a sudden surge of emotion, a sense of belonging with his friends. He knew he was ready to face whatever challenges awaited him. But he also understood that he couldn't do it alone. We should train together more often, he suggested, looking at both of them. If we want to get stronger, we have to work as a team. Sasuke nodded, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Agreed. There's no way I'm letting you surpass me. Sakura chimed in. Then let's do it. We'll train together every day. And we'll all get stronger. As they began to discuss their training plans, Naruto felt a sense of excitement brewing within him. He had faced Zorin and emerged victorious. But he knew that the world was full of dangers yet to come. With his newfound power, he felt like he could take on anything that came his way. But he also understood that the true strength lay in the bonds he shared with his friends. Together, they would face whatever challenges awaited them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Naruto felt a profound sense of hope for the future. He was ready to embrace his destiny and protect the people he cared about, no matter what. That night, as he lay in bed, he stared up at the ceiling, his heart racing with thoughts of what was to come. The power of Jiren coursed through him, a constant reminder of his potential. He was no longer just a ninja, he was becoming a protector, a leader. And he would do whatever it took to defend his home. But deep down, he knew that with great power came even greater challenges. He would have to continue to train, to master his abilities, and prepare for the battles that lay ahead. As sleep began to take hold, Naruto felt a sense of calm wash over him. He could face anything as long as he had his friends by his side. And with that thought in mind, he drifted off into a peaceful slumber, dreaming of the adventures that awaited him in the days to come. The next morning arrived with the sun rising brightly over the village, casting a warm light that filled Naruto's room. He awoke with renewed determination, the memories of his battle with Zorin fresh in his mind. Today would be another day of training, another step toward mastering his new abilities. As he prepared for the day, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was on the horizon. A challenge that would test everything he had learned so far. He quickly dressed and headed out, eager to meet Sakura and Sasuke. As he stepped outside, he felt the energy of the village buzzing around him. The laughter of children playing, the chatter of vendors selling their wares, and the distant sounds of training resonated in the air. With a smile on his face, Naruto made his way to the training ground, ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited him. Today would be another step in his journey. A journey that would take him to new heights and push him beyond his limits. And with each passing moment, he knew he was one step closer to realizing his destiny as a true protector of his village. As Naruto approached the training ground, he could already see Sakura and Sasuke waiting for him, their silhouettes stark against the vibrant morning sky. The familiar sight filled him with a sense of camaraderie and excitement. Today, he felt, would be different. Today, they would take their training to a whole new level. "Hey, you're late again," Sakura called out, her hands on her hips as she feigned irritation. But a smile betrayed her true feelings. "I told you I'd be here. Besides, you're just jealous of my natural charisma," Naruto retorted, a playful grin spreading across his face. Sasuke stood a little apart, arms crossed, watching their exchange with an almost amused expression. "Let's cut the banter. We need to get started. We can't let you slack off just because you feel stronger," he said, his tone serious yet teasing. All right. Let's see what you've got," Naruto shouted, brimming with enthusiasm. The trio began their training session, pushing each other harder than ever before. They started with a series of drills, focusing on agility and reflexes. Sakura's quick punches and deft footwork were impressive as she demonstrated her improved speed. Sasuke, with his Sharingan, moved with calculated precision, anticipating their moves and countering effortlessly. "Keep your guard up, Naruto," Sakura yelled as she threw a series of kunai his way. Naruto ducked and weaved, feeling the familiar adrenaline rush. With each passing moment, he sensed the latent energy within him grow stronger, waiting to be unleashed. The sensation was almost intoxicating, and it drove him to push his limits. "Watch this," he called out, gathering chakra into his palms. Rasengan, the swirling sphere of energy formed quickly, its power crackling in the air. He launched it toward a nearby training dummy, and it slammed into the target with tremendous force, obliterating it on contact. "Nice shot," Sasuke remarked, a hint of admiration creeping into his voice. "Thanks, but I think I can do better," Naruto replied, determination lighting up his eyes. "Let's step it up a notch." As they continued training, they decided to focus on developing their teamwork. They formed a strategy, combining their individual strengths to create powerful combinations of jutsu. Sasuke would use his shuriken jutsu to distract their opponents while Naruto delivered a powerful Rasen shuriken from behind. After several rounds of practice, they moved on to more advanced techniques. Sakura suggested a new tactic that involved her using her healing jutsu while simultaneously defending against an enemy. Naruto was eager to prove he could handle any challenge thrown at him. "All right, I'll take the lead," Naruto declared, readying himself for the next demonstration. "Just don't get reckless," Sasuke cautioned. "We need to be coordinated." Naruto nodded, feeling the weight of Sasuke's words. He appreciated his friend's guidance and wanted to show that he had matured. They began their new drill, and with every passing moment, Naruto felt his instincts sharpen. He could sense the flow of chakra around him, guiding him to react in real time. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the training ground. They turned to see a massive cloud of dust rising from a distance, followed by the frantic shouting of villagers. "What was that?" Sakura exclaimed, her eyes wide with concern. Naruto's heart raced. "Let's go check it out." The three friends sprinted toward the source of the noise, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. As they neared the commotion, they could see a crowd gathering around a crumbled building. People were panicking, trying to assess the damage and help those trapped inside. "Over there." Sasuke pointed to a group of villagers struggling to lift debris off a fallen structure. Without hesitation, Naruto rushed forward, his determination ignited. "We need to help." "Wait, Naruto," Sakura called, but he was already charging ahead, feeling the familiar surge of energy within him. As he reached the collapsed building, he could see a child trapped beneath a heavy beam. "Stay calm. I'm going to get you out," he shouted, kneeling down beside the beam. The weight of the structure was immense, but he could feel the power of Jiren surging within him, urging him to rise to the challenge. Please. Be careful. The child cried, panic evident in their voice. With every ounce of strength he could muster, Naruto gripped the beam, focusing his chakra and channeling it into his arms. The energy flowed through him, amplifying his physical abilities. He could feel the ground beneath him shaking as he lifted the heavy beam with a grunt of effort. Come on. Just a little more. He grunted, sweat beading on his forehead. The beam shifted, and he felt the weight begin to lift. With one final push, he heaved the beam aside, freeing the child. You're okay. You're safe now, he exclaimed, relief flooding through him. The child scrambled out from under the rubble, tears in their eyes. Thank you. Thank you so much. As the villagers gathered around, their expressions filled with awe and gratitude, Naruto felt a sense of pride swell in his chest. He had harnessed his newfound power for good, protecting those in need. Sasuke and Sakura rushed to his side, joining in the effort to help clear away debris. Together, they worked alongside the villagers, lifting rubble and assisting those in need. Naruto could see the gratitude in their eyes as they realized they weren't alone in the crisis. Keep pushing. We can do this. Naruto shouted, his voice full of encouragement. As they worked together, Naruto felt the strength of their bond solidifying. They weren't just friends, they were a team, united in their goal to protect their village. After hours of labor, they finally managed to clear the rubble and free everyone trapped beneath. The villagers erupted into cheers, their voices ringing with gratitude. Naruto stood among them, panting but filled with joy. You did it, Naruto. Sakura said, her eyes shining with admiration. You really helped save those people. Yeah. But it was all of us working together. He replied, beaming at his friends. We make a great team. Sasuke nodded, a rare smile on his face. Let's keep training. We need to be prepared for anything. The weight of their recent victory hung in the air, a reminder of their responsibilities. They had come together in the face of adversity, but Naruto knew they couldn't afford to grow complacent. There were always new challenges on the horizon, and they had to be ready for whatever came next. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the village, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited him, knowing that he had the strength to overcome them. In that moment, he understood that his journey was just beginning. With his friends by his side and the power of Jiren within him, he was determined to protect those he loved and forge a path toward a brighter future. Let's go home, he said, a grin spreading across his face. Tomorrow, we train even harder. With laughter and excitement, the trio made their way back to their homes, the bonds of friendship solidifying stronger than ever. Naruto felt the energy coursing through him, a reminder of the incredible journey that lay ahead. As he lay in bed that night, he reflected on the day's events, the exhilaration of saving the child, and the joy of working alongside his friends. He was ready for anything, and he would face it all with a smile. With those thoughts in mind, Naruto drifted off to sleep, dreaming of battles yet to come, challenges waiting on the horizon, and the unbreakable bonds that would see him through every obstacle. He was no longer just a ninja, he was a protector, and he was ready to embrace his destiny. As dawn broke over the Hidden Leaf Village, Naruto awoke to the sounds of chirping birds and the gentle rustle of leaves outside his window. The sun peeked through the curtains, casting a warm glow in his room. He stretched and yawned, feeling the residual power of Jiren within him, as if it was whispering encouragement to rise and seize the day. Today was going to be different. Today, he would train harder than ever before, not just for himself but for everyone who had shown their gratitude the day before. He quickly dressed and scarfed down a breakfast that felt particularly energizing. His mother had made his favorite miso soup. With a full stomach and an eager heart, he rushed out the door. As he made his way to the training grounds, he couldn't help but think about what had happened the day before. The overwhelming feeling of strength when he had saved the child was still fresh in his mind, as if the essence of Jiren was still resonating within him. He wanted to harness that power, to understand it fully and use it to protect those he cared about. When he arrived at the training ground, he found Sasuke and Sakura already waiting for him. Sasuke was practicing his shuriken techniques, the metallic sounds echoing through the air as they pierced the training dummies with pinpoint accuracy. Sakura was stretching nearby, her focus intense, preparing herself for the day's training. Look who finally decided to show up. Sasuke called out, not looking away from his target. You better not be late again. Yeah. I'm here. Aren't I? Naruto replied, a grin on his face. Let's get started. They began with their usual warm-up, but Naruto felt restless. The power he had felt during the rescue still buzzed within him, demanding to be unleashed. He glanced at his friends, who were engaged in their own routines, and an idea sparked in his mind. Hey, what if we try a new training method? Naruto suggested, excitement bubbling in his chest. Sakura looked up, curiosity piqued. What do you have in mind? I want to train with the chakra I felt yesterday. The one I think is linked to Jiren. I'm thinking we could try to push our limits further, like a friendly competition to see who can last the longest. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. A competition? I'm in. But I won't hold back. Naruto nodded, adrenaline coursing through him. Alright. Let's do this. They set up a series of challenges that tested their abilities in various ways: speed, strength, and endurance. Naruto felt invigorated, his chakras surging as he prepared for the first challenge. A race around the training ground. On your marks. Get set, go. Sakura shouted, and they took off like arrows. The wind whipped through Naruto's hair as he sprinted, the ground beneath him almost blurring. He felt lighter than usual, as if the energy from Jiren was propelling him forward. He pushed himself, using every ounce of strength, focusing on the rhythmic beating of his heart. But as he rounded the first curve, he felt a familiar presence beside him. Sasuke was keeping pace effortlessly, his Sharingan activated. Naruto grinned, knowing this would be a challenge. Not so fast, Naruto. Sasuke taunted, using a burst of chakra to surge ahead. Naruto pushed himself harder, tapping into that wellspring of energy he felt connected to Jiren. He reached deep inside, calling forth the strength he had gained. With a final burst of speed, he overtook Sasuke, crossing the finish line first. Ha! I win. Naruto shouted, his chest heaving. Lucky shot, Sasuke said, breathing heavily but unable to hide a smirk. Let's see if you can keep that up. Next came the strength challenge. They decided to lift a massive boulder that had been used for training in the past. It was heavy enough to challenge even the strongest ninjas. But Naruto felt invigorated. He could feel the energy pulsing through his muscles as he approached the boulder. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Sakura shouted. They all lifted together. But Naruto felt something shift within him. As they strained against the weight, he closed his eyes and focused on the power inside him. The same power that had surged when he saved the child. Channeling it, he felt the chakra wrap around him, enhancing his strength beyond what he had thought possible. With a shout, he lifted the boulder higher than he had ever imagined he could. The ground shook slightly, and his friends watched in disbelief. Naruto. What the? How are you doing that? Sakura exclaimed, her eyes wide. I don't know. I just feel stronger, he replied, exhilarated. I think I can lift it higher. Naruto pushed himself, focusing more of that power into his arms and legs. He felt the weight of the boulder becoming lighter. And he hoisted it over his head, holding it there for a moment before placing it back down. Sasuke looked impressed. That's incredible. We need to analyze what's happening with you. They moved on to the endurance test, where they would fight a series of training dummies in quick succession. Naruto felt energized and confident as he stepped up to the first dummy. He struck with a powerful punch, sending it flying. One by one, he took them down, utilizing a combination of his Rasengan and physical strikes. But he could feel the energy within him begin to stabilize. The longer he fought, the more he felt the essence of Jiren calming, reminding him to focus. After he finished the last dummy, he was panting but exhilarated. I feel amazing. It's like I can go on forever. Sakura and Sasuke exchanged glances, both impressed yet concerned. This is incredible, Naruto. But we need to be careful, Sakura cautioned. That much power can be overwhelming if you don't know how to control it. Yeah, Sasuke added. You need to understand this power better before we face any real opponents. Naruto nodded, the thrill of their training session mingling with a sense of responsibility. You're right. I need to learn how to harness it. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out from the edge of the training ground. Naruto. Sakura. Sasuke. They turned to see Kakashi approaching, a relaxed expression on his face as he waved. I see you've all been busy. Sensei. Naruto shouted, eager to share his progress. You won't believe what just happened. I think I've unlocked a new level of strength. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Intrigued. Oh? Cared to show me? With renewed excitement, Naruto launched into a quick demonstration of his new abilities. He raced past a line of training dummies, his movements fluid and lightning fast, obliterating each one with a combination of Rasengan and physical strikes. The speed and power he exuded were astonishing, and Kakashi watched with a mixture of admiration and concern. When he finished, panting but exhilarated, Kakashi clapped slowly. Impressive, Naruto. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility. It's crucial to understand your limits. Naruto nodded, the weight of Kakashi's words settling in. I know, Sensei. I want to get stronger. Not just for myself, but for everyone. Kakashi smiled, seeing the determination in his student's eyes. Good. I believe you can achieve that. But let's also focus on control. Power without control can lead to unintended consequences. Got it? I'll work on that. Naruto replied, fueled by determination. Kakashi gestured for them to gather closer. All right. Since you've all been working hard, let's take this opportunity to refine your skills further. I have some exercises that will help you better understand your chakra and how to harness it effectively. As they settled into their training routine under Kakashi's guidance, Naruto felt a surge of anticipation. He was ready to learn, ready to grow, and ready to unlock the full potential of the power within him. The training session unfolded with Kakashi leading them through techniques designed to enhance their chakra control, focusing on meditative practices to better understand the flow of energy. Naruto was determined to master this new power and apply it effectively. With each passing moment, he felt himself connecting more deeply with the energy that Jiren had bestowed upon him. It was no longer just raw strength, it was becoming a part of him, a tool he could wield to protect those he loved. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the training grounds, Naruto could sense that he was on the brink of something incredible. He was growing, evolving, and embracing the challenges ahead. He would not only face the threats to his village but would rise to protect everyone he cared about, with his friends by his side. And the power of Jiren within him, he was ready for whatever the future held. Tomorrow, we push even harder, he declared, his spirit unyielding. Count me in, Sasuke replied, smirking. Sakura nodded in agreement, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Let's do it. Together, they forged a path ahead, ready to face new challenges and sharpen their skills. And deep within him, Naruto could feel the power of Jiren continuing to evolve, urging him forward toward a destiny that awaited him beyond the horizon. The next morning, Naruto woke with a sense of determination that burned in his chest like a fire. The previous day's training had been intense, but he felt stronger, more in tune with his newfound power. His connection with the overwhelming strength he had unlocked, Jiren's essence, was growing clearer. But he knew he had only scratched the surface of its potential. As he walked through the village toward the training grounds, Naruto's mind raced with thoughts of how to control and refine the raw power. He had already made tremendous progress, but Kakashi's words about control stuck with him. If he could master the immense strength inside him, he'd be able to protect the village from any threat. At the training grounds, Sasuke and Sakura were already there, practicing their techniques. Sasuke was sharpening his Sharingan, while Sakura worked on improving her medical jutsu. When Naruto arrived, they greeted him with nods of acknowledgement, sensing the energy emanating from him. Kakashi-sensei won't be here today, Sasuke said, crossing his arms as he glanced at Naruto. He said we're on our own, and I'm guessing you want to push that new power of yours to the limit. Naruto grinned. You bet I do. But this time, I'm focusing on control. It's not just about being strong. I need to figure out how to use it properly. Sakura smiled approvingly. That's a good attitude, Naruto. You've already come so far. But mastering this power is going to take more than brute strength. They began their training with sparring, Knowing that the only way Naruto could truly test his power was through combat, Naruto faced off against Sasuke first, their rivalry fueling the intensity of the fight. As they squared off, Naruto could feel the energy within him bubbling up. But this time he kept it in check. He didn't want to overwhelm Sasuke. He wanted to practice using just the right amount of power. They launched at each other, exchanging rapid blows. And for the first time, Naruto found himself matching Sasuke's speed and precision without effort. "Not bad, Naruto," Sasuke said between strikes, his Sharingan glowing as he tracked Naruto's movements. "But you're holding back, aren't you?" Naruto smirked. "I told you. It's not just about going all out. I'm learning control." Their fists collided, and Naruto felt the surge of power in his body respond as if it were waiting for his command. He instinctively dampened it, releasing only a fraction of the strength he held, which was enough to push Sasuke back without overpowering him. Sasuke staggered, but he caught himself, eyes widening slightly. "You're getting better at this." "Thanks. But I'm just getting started," Naruto shouted, feeling exhilaration course through him. He had learned to pull back, to control the immense force within him. Now, he just needed to refine it further. They continued sparring, but Naruto's mind was focused not just on winning, but on honing his ability to use the power without losing control. He felt himself slipping into a rhythm, his movements smooth and calculated. The raw strength that had once been unpredictable now seemed like a tool he could wield. After their sparring session ended, Sasuke and Naruto both stood panting, grins plastered on their faces. It had been one of their best matches yet, and Naruto felt confident that he was beginning to master this new ability. "All right, you two. Enough of the boys' club," Sakura interrupted, stepping forward. "My turn to train with Naruto." Naruto looked at her, surprised. "You sure, Sakura?" She gave him a determined look. "I may not have Jiren's power, but I'm not going easy on you." They started their own sparring session, with Sakura focusing on her precision and chakra control. Her punches packed a surprising amount of power, but Naruto remained careful, ensuring he didn't overuse the strength inside him. He didn't want to hurt Sakura, and he wanted to practice restraint. As the day wore on, the trio continued their training, switching between sparring, physical challenges, and chakra control exercises. Naruto was steadily growing more accustomed to the surge of energy within him, finding a delicate balance between strength and control. But as the afternoon sun started to descend, casting long shadows over the training ground, a sudden chill swept through the air. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura all froze, sensing something ominous. A presence, one filled with malice, was approaching the village. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest, and instinctively, he tapped into the energy of Jiren that lay dormant within him. The power surged in response, like a sleeping giant awakening. From the edge of the training ground, an unfamiliar figure emerged. The man wore a long cloak, his face hidden in shadow. His chakra was dark, oppressive, and filled with an unsettling sense of violence. Naruto could feel it, the intent to kill. Sasuke stepped forward, activating his Sharingan. "Who are you?" The man didn't respond. Instead, he raised a hand, and a wave of dark chakra erupted from him, aimed directly at the trio. Naruto didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, throwing his arms out to shield Sasuke and Sakura. The power of Jiren flooded his veins, and with a single movement, he raised his hand, unleashing an invisible wall of energy that stopped the dark chakra in its tracks. Sakura gasped. "Naruto?" Sasuke's eyes narrowed, his Sharingan spinning as he analyzed the situation. "That chakra, it's not from this village. It's something else." Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the overwhelming strength of Jiren pulse through him. The man's dark energy was strong, but Naruto knew his was stronger. This was the first true test of the power he had been honing. The cloaked figure stepped forward again, this time raising both hands, preparing to unleash another wave of dark energy. "I don't know who you are," Naruto said, his voice steady, "but you're not going to hurt anyone in this village." Without waiting for the enemy to attack, Naruto shot forward with blinding speed, his body a blur as he closed the distance in an instant. The man barely had time to react before Naruto's fist connected with his chest, sending him flying back with a shockwave that rippled through the ground. The power behind Naruto's punch was incredible. But more than that, it was controlled. He had hit the enemy with just enough force to incapacitate, not kill. The cloaked figure crashed into a tree, the dark chakra dissipating as he slumped to the ground, unconscious. Sasuke and Sakura stared at Naruto, their expressions a mix of awe and disbelief. Did you just take him out in one hit? Sakura asked, her voice trembling slightly. Naruto turned to them, the energy still humming in his body. But he smiled. Yeah, I guess I did. Sasuke crossed his arms, smirking. Looks like that power of yours isn't just for show after all. Naruto chuckled, feeling the adrenaline start to fade. I've still got a lot to learn, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. As they regrouped, Kakashi arrived on the scene. Having sensed the disturbance, he surveyed the unconscious enemy and then looked at Naruto. His expression unreadable behind his mask. You've come a long way, Naruto, Kakashi said, his voice calm but filled with pride. But this is only the beginning. The power you have now, it's going to attract a lot of attention. Naruto nodded, understanding the weight of his words. I'll be ready. Whatever comes next, I'll protect everyone. And with that, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had barely begun to unlock the full potential of Jiren's power. But he knew one thing for sure. He would never stop fighting to protect those he loved, and he would face whatever challenges lay ahead with the strength and control he had worked so hard to achieve. The future was uncertain, but Naruto was ready. He had the power of Jiren within him, and nothing could stop him now. As the sun began to set over the village, casting an orange glow over the training grounds, Naruto stood in silence, his eyes focused on the horizon. He could still feel the rush of energy from the battle, but more than that, he could feel something deeper within him. A connection to the immense power he had been learning to control. The brief skirmish had been a real test, and for the first time, Naruto realized just how far he had come. Kakashi, who had been quietly observing the situation, walked over and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. You handled that well, he said, his tone measured but encouraging. But remember, there's always more to learn. You're strong, Naruto. But true strength comes from more than just power. It's about how you use it. Naruto nodded, understanding what Kakashi meant. He had felt it during the fight, an overwhelming desire to use all of Jiren's power, to crush his enemy with brute force. But something had held him back. It wasn't just about winning the battle, it was about doing it in the right way, protecting those around him without giving in to the temptation of overwhelming violence. Sasuke walked up, his arms crossed, the ever-present smirk on his face. You're not bad, Naruto. But don't get too full of yourself. You got power. But I'll always be a step ahead. Naruto grinned, the friendly rivalry between them still alive despite everything they had been through. Keep dreaming, Sasuke. I'll surpass you soon enough. Believe it? Sakura rolled her eyes but smiled at the exchange. You two will never change. Will you? Always trying to one-up each other. The mood lightened, and the trio started making their way back to the village. But as they walked, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was coming. The mysterious enemy they had just fought had appeared without warning, and though Naruto had defeated him with ease, the dark chakra had felt dangerous, foreign. It wasn't like anything they had encountered before. Later that night, Naruto sat on his bed, staring at the ceiling of his small apartment. His mind was buzzing with thoughts about the day's events. The power of Jiren was still pulsing inside him, a quiet, constant presence. He had learned a lot in the past few days, but he knew there was so much more to discover. Suddenly, a soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was unexpected. No one usually visited him this late. He opened the door to find Iruka standing there, a serious look on his face. Iruka-sensei? What's going on? Naruto asked, sensing that something was wrong. Iruka hesitated for a moment before speaking. Naruto, I just came from the Hokage's office. There's been a development. That enemy you fought today wasn't acting alone. Naruto's eyes widened. What do you mean? Iruka sighed, stepping inside. The Hokage has received reports from other villages. There's a new threat on the horizon. Something dark. Something powerful. And it seems like that person you fought today was just the beginning. Naruto clenched his fists. The memory of the dark chakra washed over him again. And he could feel a shiver run down his spine. So they're coming for the village? For us? Iruka nodded. Yes. But more specifically, it seems like they're after you. Naruto. Me? Naruto was taken aback. Why me? Iruka gave him a look filled with concern. The power you've gained, Naruto. It's unlike anything anyone has seen before. It's possible that whoever's behind this sees you as a threat. They might be coming to either take you down, or take that power for themselves. Naruto's heart raced. He hadn't thought about the consequences of having Jiren's power. He had been so focused on learning to control it, to protect the village, that he hadn't considered that others might see him as a target because of it. What do I do? Naruto asked, his voice a little quieter than usual. Iruka placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You keep training. You keep getting stronger. And most importantly, you don't let fear guide you. You've got people who care about you. People who will stand by your side no matter what. Naruto took a deep breath, nodding. I understand. I'll be by your side, too. Iruka added. No matter what happens. Naruto felt a warmth in his chest. Reminded once again of the people who believed in him. He had come so far from the boy who used to be alone. And now he had friends, mentors, and a power that could change everything. As Iruka left, Naruto sat back down, determination filling his eyes. He wouldn't let this new threat stop him. He would protect the village, protect his friends, and most of all, he would master the power of Jiren. No matter what came next, he would be ready. The next day, Naruto met with Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura at the Hokage's office. Tsunade stood behind her desk, arms crossed, a grim look on her face as she addressed them. We've confirmed the reports, she began, her voice firm. There's a group moving in the shadows, targeting powerful shinobi across the villages. The man Naruto fought yesterday was one of them. It's unclear what their end goal is, but what is clear is that they're after Naruto specifically. Naruto nodded, already prepared for the news. So what's the plan? Tsunade's gaze softened for a moment as she looked at him. You keep training. You've unlocked a power that could make a difference in this fight. But you're not ready yet. We're going to need time to gather more information on this enemy. And in the meantime, you're going to need to push your training further than ever before. Kakashi stepped forward. Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura. We're going to intensify your training. Whatever this new threat is, it's not going to wait for us to be ready. We have to be prepared. Sasuke smirked. Looks like things are about to get interesting. Sakura nodded in agreement. We can handle whatever comes our way. We've done it before. And we'll do it again. Naruto clenched his fists, determination blazing in his eyes. I won't let anyone hurt the people I care about. Whatever it takes, I'll keep getting stronger. I'll master this power. And when they come, I'll be ready. Tsunade gave him a nod of approval. That's what I like to hear. Now, get to work. We're going to need you all at your best. As they left the Hokage's office and headed back to the training grounds, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. The stakes had never been higher. But he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't alone in this fight. With the power of Jiren at his side and his friends by his side, Naruto was ready for whatever the future held. The dark forces closing in on the village didn't stand a chance. Naruto stood in the center of the training grounds, his fists clenched as he stared at the horizon. The village seemed peaceful for now, but he knew that the tranquility was temporary. With the revelation that a shadowy group was targeting him, and likely seeking his newfound power, Naruto understood that the days ahead would be fraught with danger. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura joined him, each of them silently preparing themselves for the rigorous training that lay ahead. Sasuke's Sharingan flickered, while Sakura adjusted her gloves, ready to unleash her chakra-enhanced punches. Kakashi, always calm and collected, seemed deep in thought, likely planning the next phase of their training. Today, Kakashi said, breaking the silence, we're going to push your limits. Naruto, you've unlocked incredible strength. But strength without control can be dangerous. We need to make sure you're ready for whatever comes your way. Naruto nodded. Determination etched on his face. I'm ready. Kakashi-sensei. I need to be stronger. Not just for me, but for the village. For everyone. Kakashi's lone visible eye crinkled slightly as if smiling. Good. We'll start with stamina training. Then move into chakra control and battle simulations. The morning sun had risen high in the sky by the time the team began their first exercise. Naruto sprinted through the forest surrounding the training grounds, carrying massive weights strapped to his arms and legs. His body screamed in protest, but the power coursing through his veins kept him going. Every time he felt like slowing down, he tapped into Jiren's immense strength, using it to push his muscles beyond their limits. Sasuke ran beside him, barely breaking a sweat as he pushed his own body to the limit, his Sharingan allowing him to analyze his movements in real time. Don't fall behind, Naruto, he called out, his voice sharp but with a hint of competitive edge. Naruto gritted his teeth, flashing a grin at Sasuke. As if I would try to keep up. They raced through the trees, their speed reaching superhuman levels as they pushed each other. By the time they finished the exercise, both were breathing heavily, but neither was willing to admit fatigue. Next came chakra control. Kakashi had them practice precise control over their chakra by walking up the face of a waterfall. A far more advanced version of the usual tree-walking exercise. The rushing water made it infinitely harder to maintain balance, but Naruto stood at the base of the waterfall, eyes closed in concentration. He took a deep breath, feeling the chakra flow through him, combining with the power of Jiren. At first, the energy surged wildly, threatening to throw him off balance. But with practiced effort, Naruto focused, calming the raging storm within. Slowly, he placed his foot on the wet rock face, and then another, until he was walking vertically against the pressure of the water. Nearby, Sasuke and Sakura also climbed the waterfall, each focused on maintaining their chakra flow. Sakura, with her incredible chakra control, ascended with grace, while Sasuke's Sharingan analyzed every step. Nice work, Naruto, Kakashi called from below, his voice filled with encouragement. Keep that focus. The key to mastering your power is controlling it at all times. Even when things are chaotic. Naruto nodded, taking Kakashi's words to heart. Control was everything now. He knew the raw power of Jiren could destroy if left unchecked, and he had no intention of letting that happen. The real challenge came in the afternoon during battle simulations. Kakashi had arranged for several high-level Jonin to spar with Naruto, pushing him to his limits in combat scenarios. The first few battles were easy, with Naruto quickly overwhelming his opponents by utilizing Jiren's speed and strength. But as the day wore on, Kakashi increased the difficulty, sending multiple opponents at once, forcing Naruto to rely not just on brute force but on strategy as well. Sasuke and Sakura watched from the sidelines, studying Naruto's movements. They both knew Naruto had grown stronger, but seeing him in action was something else entirely. His reflexes were sharper, his strikes more precise, and the sheer force behind each blow was incredible. By the end of the day, Naruto had defeated every opponent Kakashi had thrown at him. He was panting, drenched in sweat, but there was a fire in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He was starting to understand Jiren's power, not just how to use it, but how to master it. Good job, Naruto, Kakashi said, walking over to him. You're making progress. But don't get too comfortable. This is just the beginning. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow, a grin spreading across his face. I know, Kakashi-sensei. I'll keep pushing. As the sun began to set, the team gathered under the shade of a large tree to catch their breath. The day had been intense, but productive. Sakura glanced at Naruto, her expression thoughtful. Naruto, you've really changed. I don't just mean your power. It's like you've grown more focused, more in control. Naruto scratched the back of his head, feeling a little bashful at the compliment. Yeah, well, I've had to. This power, it's not something I can mess around with. I've got to be responsible. You know, Sasuke, who had been silent for most of the day, finally spoke. You're strong, Naruto. But don't think for a second that you've surpassed me. Naruto laughed. The rivalry between them is alive as ever. You wish? Sasuke. I'm coming for the top spot. Believe it? Kakashi watched the interaction with a hint of amusement. Despite everything, Naruto was still Naruto, full of energy, determination, and an unbreakable will. But beneath the surface, he knew that the coming days would test them all in ways they couldn't yet imagine. This mysterious new enemy, whoever they were, wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. And with Naruto at the center of it all, the entire village would be drawn into the fight. Rest up, everyone, Kakashi finally said, his tone serious once again. Tomorrow, we'll push even harder. As the night settled in, Naruto lay in bed, staring at the ceiling once more. The weight of the responsibility he now carried was heavy, but he felt ready. He had friends who stood by him, mentors who believed in him, and the strength of Jiren flowing through him. Whatever the enemy was planning, they wouldn't stand a chance. Naruto would protect his village, his friends, and everyone he cared about. He wasn't the same reckless boy he used to be. He was stronger, more focused, and more determined than ever. And with the power of Jiren in his hands, nothing would stop him. The moonlight filtered through the window of Naruto's small apartment, casting long shadows on the walls. Despite the intense day of training, sleep eluded him. His mind was racing, filled with thoughts of the mysterious threat looming on the horizon. He couldn't shake the sense of urgency that came with it, a feeling deep in his gut telling him that something big was about to happen. Naruto sat up, running his hands through his hair. The power of Jiren, this immense strength he had inherited, still coursed through his veins, its presence undeniable even in the stillness of the night. But there was more to it, something he couldn't quite put into words yet. It wasn't just raw strength. It was a sense of purpose, a weight of responsibility, and a profound connection to the idea of absolute justice. Jiren's power wasn't just about being strong, it was about standing for something greater than oneself. As he sat in silence, his mind replayed the events of the day, the battle simulations, the training, and Kakashi's words about control. Control, that was the key. He'd mastered using a portion of Jiren's strength, but Naruto knew that he had only scratched the surface. There was still so much more to learn. So much power locked away inside him. And if this enemy really was targeting him for that very power, he had to be ready. Suddenly, the quiet of the night was shattered by a faint tremor in the air. Naruto's senses immediately sharpened. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but there was a disturbance. Something was off. His eyes narrowed, and without a second thought, he jumped out of bed, grabbed his jacket, and headed for the door. The village felt different. The air was thick with an unspoken tension. Naruto found himself standing in the middle of the village. The streets eerily empty despite the late hour. His eyes scanned the shadows, his body tense. He could feel something was coming. But from where? His heart pounded in his chest as the silence around him deepened. Then, in an instant, he felt it, a surge of dark chakra, more powerful and menacing than anything he had sensed before. Without warning, an explosion of energy ripped through the night, coming from the outskirts of the village. Naruto's eyes widened, and without hesitation, he bolted toward the source, moving faster than he ever had before. The world around him blurred as he tapped into Jiren's speed, his feet barely touching the ground. When he arrived at the scene, what he saw sent a chill down his spine. There, standing in the middle of a devastated training ground, were three cloaked figures, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. The air around them crackled with malevolent chakra, their very presence distorting the atmosphere. The ground was scorched, trees were uprooted, and a deep crater marred the earth. It was clear that they had been waiting for him. One of the figures stepped forward, his voice low and raspy. So, you're the one. The vessel of that immense power. Naruto's eyes narrowed, fists clenched. Who the hell are you? What do you want? The figure let out a dark chuckle. You wouldn't understand. Boy. That power inside you. It doesn't belong in the hands of a simple shinobi. We've come to take it. Naruto's heart raced. He could feel their intent. Cold, calculating, and filled with a hunger for power. But he wasn't about to back down. Not now. Not ever. You're not taking anything from me. Naruto growled, stepping forward, his chakra flaring around him. The ground beneath his feet cracked as the weight of his power began to surface. If you think you can just come here and threaten my village, you've got another thing coming. The second figure raised his hand, and with a swift movement, a barrage of black energy blasts shot toward Naruto. They tore through the air with terrifying speed, but Naruto's reflexes, enhanced by Jiren's power, kicked in. In the blink of an eye, he dodged the attacks, weaving through the onslaught with effortless precision. The third figure, standing further back, muttered something under his breath, and the shadows around him began to twist and writhe. Suddenly, dozens of dark tendrils shot from the ground, aiming to ensnare Naruto. But he wasn't fazed. He slammed his foot into the ground, causing a shockwave that shattered the tendrils into pieces. "You're fast," the first figure remarked, his tone growing more serious. "But let's see how you handle this." Before Naruto could react, the figure vanished, reappearing behind him in a flash of speed. Naruto spun around just in time to block a devastating punch, the force of which sent shockwaves through the air. Their fists collided with a resounding boom. But Naruto stood his ground. He could feel the power behind the attack, but it wasn't enough to shake him. "Is that all you've got?" Naruto smirked, his confidence rising. "I expected more." The figure scowled and pulled back, his hood falling to reveal a twisted, scarred face. "You're stronger than I thought. But this is just the beginning." As the words left his mouth, the other two figures joined the fray. One launched a flurry of chakra-infused strikes while the other unleashed more tendrils of dark energy. Naruto found himself surrounded, but instead of panicking, he felt a strange calm wash over him. His movements became fluid, his reactions instinctive. He dodged, blocked, and countered with precision, his body moving in perfect harmony with Jiren's power. Suddenly, as the fight escalated, Naruto felt something deep within him shift. The power he had been holding back, the raw, overwhelming strength of Jiren, began to surge forth. More intense than ever before. His vision sharpened, and the world around him seemed to slow down. Time itself felt like it was bending to his will. "Enough," Naruto said, his voice calm but filled with authority. He raised his hand, and in one fluid motion, he unleashed a blast of pure energy, sending all three enemies flying back. They crashed into the trees, the sheer force of the attack leaving them stunned. Naruto stood in the center of the battlefield, his aura glowing with a blinding light. The power of Jiren fully awakened within him. "This is your last warning," Naruto said, his voice echoing through the night. "Leave now, or I'll make sure you never come back." The three figures struggled to their feet, clearly shaken by the display of power. For a moment, it looked as if they might retreat. But then, the first figure laughed, his voice dripping with malice. "You've only just begun to scratch the surface of your power, boy," he sneered. "But know this, we will return. And when we do, we'll take that power for ourselves." With that, the three figures vanished into the night, leaving Naruto standing alone in the aftermath of the battle. As the dust settled and the adrenaline faded, Naruto stared at the destruction around him, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. He had fought off the attackers, but the threat wasn't over. Whoever they were, they would be back, and next time, they would be even more dangerous. Naruto clenched his fists, his mind racing. He needed to get stronger. He had barely tapped into the full extent of Jiren's power, and now he understood just how important it was to master it completely. There was no room for error. But even as the gravity of the situation pressed down on him, Naruto couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. This was his chance to prove himself, to protect his village and his friends, and to show the world just how strong he had become. He wasn't the same Naruto he used to be. He was stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. And with the power of Jiren at his side, he knew one thing for sure. He would protect everyone he cared about, no matter what. The future was uncertain, but Naruto was ready. The battle for his village, for his friends, and for his very future had just begun. The night after the battle was quiet, but Naruto's mind was far from at ease. He stood at the edge of the training ground, staring at the damaged landscape left behind by his clash with the mysterious attackers. The trees had been scorched, the ground torn apart by their fierce battle. But what weighed most heavily on Naruto wasn't the destruction. It was the threat of what was to come. The village was peaceful for now. But those three figures had made it clear. They were after his power. And they would return. Naruto clenched his fists. His body still humming with the residual energy from Jiren's immense strength. Even after all the training, all the battles, he knew he still had a long way to go. He had barely scratched the surface of Jiren's full potential. And if these enemies were strong enough to challenge him now, what would happen when they came back? With more power, more allies, and more preparation? He couldn't let that happen. Not again. Naruto took a deep breath, his gaze hardening as he made up his mind. I need to get stronger, he whispered to himself. Stronger than I've ever been. The next morning, Naruto found himself in the Hokage's office. Tsunade sat behind her desk, her sharp eyes studying him carefully. To her right stood Kakashi, arms crossed, his expression unreadable beneath his mask. You said 3 enemies attacked last night, Tsunade repeated, her voice serious. And they were after you? Naruto nodded. Yeah. They wanted Jiren's power. They said it didn't belong in the hands of a shinobi like me. Tsunade frowned, her fingers tapping against the desk. This isn't good. If there's a group out there targeting you specifically for that power, we're dealing with something much bigger than we thought. Whoever they are, they're dangerous. Kakashi stepped forward, his voice calm but concerned. Naruto, you're strong. You've grown a lot, especially with Jiren's abilities. But if these enemies are determined enough to attack you in the middle of the village, we can't afford to underestimate them. Naruto's eyes flickered with determination. I know, Kakashi-sensei. That's why I need to keep training. I have to unlock more of Jiren's power. I have to be ready for them next time. Tsunade leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. You'll get the training you need, Naruto. But we also need to figure out who these attackers are and why they're after this power. We can't just wait for them to strike again. Naruto nodded. But his mind was already elsewhere, thinking about what lay ahead. He knew they were right. The village needed answers. But for now, all he could focus on was getting stronger. Strong enough to protect everyone. The following weeks were a blur of intense training. Day after day, Naruto pushed himself to his limits, honing not only his physical strength but his control over the immense energy he now wielded. Kakashi oversaw his progress, making sure Naruto balanced power with precision. Every battle simulation was more difficult than the last, each one designed to push Naruto further. But no matter how hard the training became, Naruto never wavered. His resolve had only grown stronger since that night. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for everyone he cared about, for the village, for his friends, for the future. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Naruto found himself alone in the training grounds. His body ached from the day's training, but his mind was still focused, his heart racing with the drive to keep pushing. He stood still, closing his eyes as he concentrated on the energy within him. The power of Jiren pulsed through him like a living entity, vast and overwhelming. But there was something deeper, something that had always been there, just out of reach. A part of Jiren's strength that he hadn't yet tapped into. Naruto focused harder, his breathing steady as he reached for that power. He could feel it, just beneath the surface, like a massive reservoir of energy waiting to be unleashed. The air around him began to tremble as his chakra flared, mixing with the raw strength of Jiren's abilities. Suddenly, his mind flashed back to Jiren's philosophy, his relentless pursuit of justice and his unwavering focus on strength. Jiren had fought alone for so long, believing that only power could protect what he cared about. But Naruto wasn't like that. He fought for his friends, for his bonds, for the people who stood by him. And that was when it clicked. The power he was trying to tap into, it wasn't just about strength. It was about conviction. It was about fighting for something greater than himself. In that moment, Naruto's eyes snapped open, glowing with newfound intensity. The ground beneath him cracked as a wave of energy exploded outward, shaking the entire training ground. His body felt lighter, stronger, more connected to the immense power flowing through him. He had finally unlocked a deeper level of Jiren's strength, not just raw power, but the strength of purpose, the strength of resolve. The next morning, Naruto stood before Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke. A newfound energy radiating from him. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, his Sharingan scanning Naruto's chakra. "You've gotten stronger," he said, his voice tinged with respect. "But don't think I'm going to let you surpass me that easily." Naruto grinned, his confidence shining through. "You'll have to catch up." Sasuke. Kakashi, watching the two rivals, smiled beneath his mask. "Looks like the training's paying off. But we're not done yet. There's still a lot more work to do." Naruto nodded, his determination unwavering. He could feel the power coursing through him. But he knew that this was only the beginning. The enemies who had attacked him were still out there, waiting for their chance to strike again. And when they did, Naruto would be ready. With the power of Jiren fully awakened within him, and the strength of his bonds guiding him, Naruto knew one thing for sure. No matter what came next, he would protect his village, his friends, and everything he cared about. The battle wasn't over. It had only just begun. Days passed, and Naruto's intense training continued. His body adapted to Jiren's immense power more fluidly with each session. But the weight of responsibility never left him. The village, unaware of the threats lurking in the shadows, carried on as usual. However, Naruto knew better. He felt the presence of his enemies, always watching, always waiting for the right moment to strike again. One afternoon, Naruto found himself sparring with Sasuke in the training grounds. Their rivalry had always pushed them both to their limits. But now, something was different. Sasuke, with his Sharingan activated, could feel the overwhelming power Naruto was holding back. It was like sparring with a force of nature. Sasuke charged, his Chidori crackling with energy. "You're holding back, Naruto. Don't insult me." Naruto dodged the attack with ease, his movements calm and precise. He could feel the weight of Jiren's strength pulsing within him. But he didn't want to release it fully. "Not yet. I'm not insulting you, Sasuke," Naruto replied, ducking under a kick and countering with a light tap to Sasuke's shoulder, sending him stumbling back. "I'm trying to control it." Sasuke's eyes narrowed, his Sharingan analyzing every movement. "If you can't control your power, then it controls you. Don't forget that." Naruto sighed, knowing Sasuke was right. He had made significant progress. But even now, he felt the immense weight of Jiren's strength just beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed. He couldn't afford to lose control, not with everything at stake. The sparring session continued for a while, both of them testing each other's limits. Eventually, Kakashi stepped in, ending the bout. "All right. That's enough for today," Kakashi said, his tone casual but authoritative. "Naruto, your control is getting better. But you're still holding back too much. If you don't push yourself, you'll never reach the next level." Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow, nodding. "I know, Kakashi-sensei. I don't want to hurt anyone." Kakashi's eyes softened. "I understand. But you won't always have the luxury of holding back. When those enemies return, they won't be pulling their punches." Naruto clenched his fists, the weight of Kakashi's words sinking in. He knew they were right. He couldn't afford to hesitate, not when the safety of the village was on the line. That night, Naruto sat on the Hokage monument, gazing out over the village. The cool breeze rustled his hair as he pondered everything that had happened. The attack from the mysterious figures, the training, Jiren's power. It was all so overwhelming. He thought back to Jiren's life, the memories and philosophies that had come with the power. Jiren had always fought alone, believing that strength was the only way to protect what mattered. But Naruto knew that wasn't the answer. He had friends, bonds that had always given him strength. He couldn't walk the same path as Jiren. He had to forge his own. As he sat in silence, a familiar presence approached. He didn't need to look to know who it was. "Thinking too much again, Naruto?" came a soft voice. Naruto turned to see Sakura standing there, a small smile on her face. She sat down next to him, her expression softening as she looked out at the village. "You've been training hard lately," she said. "More than usual." Naruto sighed, leaning back. "Yeah, I have to. Those guys, they're strong. And they're coming back. I don't want to be caught off guard again." Sakura looked at him, concern in her eyes. "I know you're strong, Naruto. But don't forget that you're not alone. You have all of us. Naruto glanced at her, appreciating the sentiment. I know. It's just, this power. Sakura. It's so overwhelming. I've never felt anything like it before. And I don't want to lose control. Sakura placed a hand on his shoulder. You won't. You've always been able to find a way to control your strength. And besides, you're not the type to give up when things get tough. Naruto smiled, feeling a little lighter. Thanks, Sakura. They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments before Sakura spoke again. So, what's the plan? When those guys come back, what are we going to do? Naruto's expression turned serious. I'm going to keep training. I need to fully master this power before they come back. But when they do, we'll be ready. Sakura nodded, determination in her eyes. We'll all be ready. Days turned into weeks, and Naruto's training became more intense. He continued sparring with Sasuke, honing his control, and working on pushing the limits of Jiren's power without losing himself to its overwhelming force. But no matter how much he trained, there was always a nagging feeling in the back of his mind, the sense that time was running out. And then, one fateful day, that feeling proved true. It was midday, the village bustling with activity, when the sky above Konoha suddenly darkened. The air became heavy, oppressive, as if the world itself was holding its breath. A low rumble echoed through the streets, and a wave of dark chakra washed over the village, sending a chill down everyone's spine. Naruto, who had been in the middle of a training session with Kakashi, felt it immediately. His head snapped up, his eyes narrowing as he sensed the presence he had been dreading. They're here, Naruto muttered, his voice low and serious. Kakashi looked up as well, his expression grim. It looks like they've come back for you. Naruto's heart raced, but there was no fear, only determination. He had been preparing for this moment, and now, it was time to face it head on. In an instant, Naruto was gone, racing toward the source of the disturbance. As he ran through the streets, villagers looked up in confusion, unsure of what was happening. But Naruto didn't stop to explain. His focus was solely on the threat that had returned. He arrived at the outskirts of the village, where the energy was strongest. There, standing in the middle of a wide clearing, were the same three cloaked figures from before. But this time, they weren't alone. Behind them stood a massive creature, its body pulsing with dark energy, towering over the trees like a demon from a nightmare. The leader of the group stepped forward, his hood pulled back to reveal a face twisted with malice. We warned you, Naruto Uzumaki, he sneered. You have something that doesn't belong to you. And now, we've come to take it. Naruto's eyes blazed with resolve as he stood his ground, the power of Jiren thrumming within him. I'm not the same as I was before, Naruto said, his voice steady. And I'm not giving you anything. The figure's grin widened. We'll see about that. With a wave of his hand, the monstrous creature behind them roared, its body crackling with dark energy as it charged forward, shaking the very ground with each step. Naruto stood tall, his heart steady, his mind clear. This was it, the moment he had been training for. With a single breath, he tapped into Jiren's full power, his aura exploding outward as he prepared to face the oncoming storm. The battle for Konoha had begun. The ground trembled beneath Naruto's feet as the monstrous creature surged forward. Its dark energy warped the air, creating a heavy, oppressive atmosphere that threatened to crush everything in its path. Naruto's heart raced, but his mind was sharp. The countless hours of training, the focus on controlling Jiren's immense power, all of it led to this moment. Kakashi appeared beside him in a flash, his eyes wide as he took in the sight of the towering beast. Naruto. This thing, it's on a different level. I know, Naruto said, his voice calm but intense. But so am I. Naruto clenched his fists, and his body radiated a silver glow, the aura of Jiren's power rising around him like an unstoppable force. The air crackled with energy, and the sheer weight of his power caused the ground beneath him to fracture. Kakashi took a step back, his Sharingan analyzing the situation. The cloaked figure, now fully revealing his face, smirked with confidence as the creature charged. You're too late to stop us, Naruto. No amount of training can prepare you for the chaos we bring. Naruto's eyes narrowed. I've heard enough. With a deep breath, Naruto dashed forward, the ground shattering beneath his feet from the sheer force of his movement. He moved so fast that Kakashi's Sharingan could barely keep up, his form a blur of silver energy as he met the creature head-on. The beast, massive and filled with dark power, swung its enormous claw at him, intending to crush him in a single strike. But Naruto was faster. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto redirected the beast's attack, sending the claw crashing into the ground with a thunderous explosion. He leapt onto the creature's arm, running up its length as his aura flared brighter, filling the entire clearing with blinding light. The creature roared in frustration, but Naruto was already in motion. He launched himself into the air, his body glowing like a shooting star. With one powerful punch, imbued with the full force of Jiren's strength, Naruto struck the creature's head. The shockwave from the impact rippled through the sky, sending a blast of wind that flattened trees and shook the village far in the distance. The creature's head exploded in a shower of dark energy, its massive body crumbling to the ground as Naruto landed softly on his feet, the glowing aura around him dimming. The leader of the cloaked figures, still standing with his allies, watched in disbelief as their monstrous weapon was felled in an instant. His smirk faltered, replaced by an expression of rage. Impossible. How could you have, like I said? Naruto interrupted, standing tall, his eyes glowing with the power of Jiren. I'm not the same person you fought last time. The two remaining figures stepped forward, their dark chakra flaring as they prepared to engage Naruto directly. Kakashi, now at Naruto's side, readied his own chakra, preparing to back up his student. But Naruto raised a hand. Stay back, Kakashi-sensei. I need to handle this. Kakashi hesitated, sensing the enormous power radiating from Naruto. He nodded, stepping back but remaining on guard. The leader snarled. You think you can take us both? We were only testing you before. This time, we'll crush you. The two enemies charged simultaneously, their movements fast, but Naruto was faster. His body flickered, disappearing from sight for a moment before reappearing directly between them. His arms shot out in opposite directions, striking both enemies with incredible precision. The shockwaves from his blows sent them both flying backward, crashing into the trees with a force that shook the ground. Naruto stood still, his expression calm but focused. His mastery over Jiren's power had reached a new height. Every movement was deliberate. Every strike was calculated. He no longer struggled to control the overwhelming energy. It was as if he had become one with the power. The leader staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth, his eyes wide with disbelief. This power. It's unnatural. Naruto looked at him, his gaze cold. You wanted Jiren's power? You couldn't even handle a fraction of it. With a roar of frustration, the leader unleashed a massive wave of dark energy, the ground cracking beneath the weight of his power. The air itself seemed to tear as the attack shot toward Naruto. But Naruto didn't move. His eyes gleamed as he raised his hand, catching the wave of energy as if it were nothing. The force of the attack pushed against him, but he stood firm, his feet planted solidly on the ground. And then, with a simple push, Naruto dispelled the energy, scattering it harmlessly into the air. The leader's eyes widened in horror. No, this can't be happening. Naruto lowered his hand, his expression unwavering. I gave you a chance to walk away. You didn't take it. In an instant, Naruto vanished from sight, reappearing directly in front of the leader. The man barely had time to react before Naruto struck him with a single, devastating punch to the chest. The force of the blow sent the man flying through the air, crashing into the forest far beyond the clearing, his body limp and broken. The final cloaked figure, now alone, trembled with fear. He took a step back, his eyes darting between Naruto and his fallen comrades. Wait, I didn't want this. Naruto's eyes softened slightly, his voice calm but firm. Then leave. And don't ever come back. The figure didn't need to be told twice. He turned and fled, disappearing into the forest without a second glance. As the silence settled over the clearing, Naruto stood still, the tension in the air fading. He let out a long breath, his body relaxing as the glow of Jiren's power dimmed. Kakashi approached him, his expression unreadable beneath his mask. "You've grown stronger, Naruto," Kakashi said, his voice filled with a mixture of pride and concern. Naruto looked out over the horizon, his thoughts distant. "Yeah. But I'm not done yet. There's still more I need to learn. More strength I need to gain." Kakashi nodded, understanding the weight Naruto carried. "Just don't forget that you're not alone. No matter how strong you get, we're all here for you." Naruto smiled, the weight of his responsibilities easing slightly. "I know, Kakashi-sensei. I won't forget." As the two of them headed back toward the village, Naruto's resolve grew even stronger. The battle had ended, but the war was far from over. With Jiren's power fully awakened within him, Naruto knew that even greater challenges awaited. But no matter what came next, he would face it head-on, for his village, for his friends, and for the future he swore to protect. The days following the battle were filled with an eerie calm. Naruto felt the village's tension, though life resumed as usual for most. While people went about their routines, murmurs of what had happened spread. Everyone knew something had changed, even if they didn't fully understand it. The immense power that had saved Konoha was not lost on anyone who had been close enough to feel it. Naruto, however, was far from at ease. His training with Jiren's power had advanced to a point where he no longer struggled to control it, but he had learned that it came with a cost. The weight of his strength hung over him like a shadow, constantly reminding him of the fine line he walked between protecting those he loved and becoming something detached from them entirely. One evening, Naruto stood alone at the edge of the village, gazing out into the forest. He could feel it, a presence far off, lurking in the distance. The cloaked enemies hadn't returned yet, but he knew they would. The leader's words echoed in his mind. "You have something that doesn't belong to you." He clenched his fists, feeling the power pulse beneath his skin. It belonged to him now. He had earned it through hardship and pain, through training and relentless effort. And yet, there was a nagging doubt in his mind. Jiren's power was meant for a warrior who fought alone, a force that didn't rely on bonds or friendship. Naruto, who had always valued his connections with others, feared what it might do to him over time. His thoughts were interrupted by a soft voice behind him. "Naruto, you've been spending a lot of time out here." He turned to see Hinata standing there, her eyes full of quiet concern. She stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "I needed to think," Naruto replied, his voice low. He hesitated for a moment, then added, "I feel like I'm changing." Hinata's brows furrowed slightly. "Changing how?" Naruto looked away, unsure of how to explain it. "This power, it's so different from anything I've ever had before. When I use it, I feel like I could do anything. But it's not the same as Kurama's chakra or sage mode. It feels lonely." Hinata moved to stand beside him, her presence warm and grounding. "You're not alone, Naruto. No matter how strong you become, we're all still here for you." Naruto's lips twitched into a small smile. "I know, but I can't shake the feeling that this power wasn't meant for someone like me." Jiren never relied on anyone else. He believed in strength above everything, even if it meant being alone. "I don't want to end up like that." Hinata looked at him thoughtfully. "You're not Jiren, though. You're Naruto. No matter how strong you get, you won't lose who you are. Because you have people who care about you. You've always found a way to balance your strength with your heart." Naruto was silent for a moment, letting her words sink in. He glanced at her, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. "Thanks, Hinata. I needed to hear that." Hinata smiled softly. "You've always carried so much on your shoulders, Naruto. But you don't have to do it alone. We're all in this together." Naruto nodded, feeling the weight on his heart lift slightly. He knew she was right. He didn't have to walk this path alone, no matter how overwhelming the power inside him felt. The next morning, Naruto met with Tsunade in the Hokage's office. She had called him in to discuss the aftermath of the battle and the looming threat of the enemies who had yet to reveal their full motives. "You handled the last attack well, Naruto," Tsunade said, her expression serious as she leaned back in her chair. "But we both know this isn't over. Whoever those people are, they're after you specifically. You need to be prepared." Naruto crossed his arms, nodding. "I know. I've been training as hard as I can. But these guys, they're different. They're not after the village or Kurama. They want Jiren's power. Tsunade frowned. And they'll stop at nothing to get it. She paused, studying him closely. How are you handling it? I can't imagine it's easy. Naruto looked down for a moment before answering. It's a lot. But I'm managing. I just need more time to fully control it. Tsunade's gaze softened slightly. You've come a long way, Naruto. But don't let this power consume you. I've seen what happens when people rely too much on their strength alone. Remember, your strength has always come from your will to protect others, not just from raw power. Naruto met her eyes, feeling the truth of her words resonate within him. I won't forget that. Tsunade nodded. Good. Now, about these enemies, we've been gathering intel. But so far, we haven't been able to track them down. Whoever they are, they know how to cover their tracks. Naruto clenched his fists. They'll come back. And when they do, I'll be ready. Tsunade gave him a hard look. Don't be reckless, Naruto. This isn't just about strength. You need to think strategically. We don't know how many more of them there are, or what they're truly capable of. Naruto took a deep breath, calming himself. I won't rush in. But when the time comes, I'll finish this. That night, as Naruto lay in his bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. He stared up at the ceiling, listening to the quiet sounds of the village outside. His mind drifted back to Jiren's memories, the brief glimpses he had of the warrior's life, the loneliness, the relentless pursuit of strength, the losses Jiren had suffered. Naruto didn't want to follow that same path, but there was a part of him that understood it. In a world filled with enemies who would stop at nothing, how could anyone truly rely on others? He rolled over, trying to push the thoughts away. Tomorrow, he would continue training. Tomorrow, he would grow stronger. But for now, he let the quiet comfort of the night surround him, knowing that, for the moment, he wasn't alone. Morning came swiftly, and Naruto was already up before the sun, sparring with Sasuke in the training grounds. Each clash of their blows sent shockwaves through the air. But Naruto held back just enough to keep the fight from overwhelming his friend. Sasuke, ever perceptive, could sense Naruto's restraint. You're still holding back, Sasuke said between breaths, his Sharingan glowing. Don't. If you want to control that power, you need to push it. Naruto wiped sweat from his brow, his breathing steady despite the intensity of their match. I can't just let it all out. Sasuke. Not here. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, his voice cold but understanding. If you don't push your limits, you'll never grow. You need to test the full extent of your power. Naruto paused, his eyes meeting Sasuke's. He knew his friend was right. There was a time for caution, but there was also a time to go all out. And the next time their enemies showed up, Naruto would be ready to unleash the full might of Jiren's strength. No holding back. He clenched his fists, a determined fire burning in his eyes. The next battle would be different. He would fight not just with Jiren's power, but with the strength of his heart and the bonds he had forged with those around him. No matter what, he wouldn't let his friends down. And when the time came, Naruto would face the coming storm head-on, ready for whatever lay ahead. Days passed, and the tension in the village continued to simmer beneath the surface. Naruto's training intensified as he worked to hone the immense power he had inherited from Jiren. While he was determined to be ready for the next attack, there was a gnawing feeling in his gut, a sense that the battle ahead would test him in ways he hadn't yet imagined. Sasuke had been right. If Naruto was going to control Jiren's power, he would need to push himself further, test the limits, and figure out how to integrate it fully into his fighting style. But he also knew that the strength of Jiren came from more than just raw power. It required unwavering resolve. Jiren's power had its foundation in solitude and self-reliance, something that fundamentally clashed with Naruto's ideals of bonds and teamwork. How can I reconcile the two? He wondered as he stood in the vast training grounds, his fists clenched at his sides. The wind picked up, carrying with it the faint sounds of the village in the distance. Naruto took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He focused on his core, channeling the immense energy that resided within him. His muscles tensed as the air around him began to distort, the weight of Jiren's power rising within him like a tidal wave. Control it, he muttered to himself. Don't let it control you. Suddenly, a crackling sound filled the air, and a pulse of energy shot out from Naruto, creating a small shockwave that rippled through the trees. His eyes shot open, glowing red with intensity. For a moment, everything around him seemed to slow down. He could see every leaf, every blade of grass, every tiny shift in the environment as if time itself had bent to his will. He didn't just have strength. He had perception, precision. The world felt more tangible, more under his command. But before he could push further, he heard a voice call out to him from behind. Still working on mastering it. Huh? Naruto turned to see Sasuke approaching, his Sharingan active as he observed Naruto's training. The two had been sparring more often lately, and Sasuke had noticed the growing strain on Naruto as he tried to balance Jiren's power with his own. Despite his immense growth, Naruto's struggle wasn't purely physical. It was a mental battle, one that Sasuke could understand all too well. Yeah, Naruto admitted, shaking his head. It's getting easier to control, but I'm still holding back. I don't want to go too far and lose yourself. Sasuke finished, standing beside him with his usual sharp gaze. You've always relied on your bonds, your connections with others, to keep you grounded. But Jiren's power is different. It's solitary. You need to find a way to balance that strength with what makes you who you are. Naruto sighed, his shoulders relaxing. I know. It's just, this power wasn't meant for someone like me. Jiren was a lone wolf. I'm not. Sasuke's expression softened, though his words remained direct. Maybe that's why you're the perfect one to wield it. Naruto blinked, caught off guard by Sasuke's remark. You've always been about defying expectations. Sasuke continued. Jiren's power doesn't have to change who you are. Use it in your own way. Make it yours, not his. Naruto looked at Sasuke for a long moment, letting the words sink in. He knew Sasuke was right. Jiren's power didn't define him. Naruto had always found a way to take the strengths and abilities of others and mold them into something unique. Something that reflected his own heart and will. The 9 tails, Sage Mode, even the Rasengan, each technique had become a part of Naruto's identity. But they didn't change who he was at his core. With renewed determination, Naruto nodded. Thanks, Sasuke. I needed that. Sasuke gave a small nod in return before shifting his stance. Now, show me. Don't hold back this time. Naruto grinned, his competitive spirit reignited. You asked for it. In an instant, the air around Naruto crackled with energy as his aura flared to life. Silver and red swirled together as Jiren's power merged with Naruto's natural chakra, creating a fierce, radiant glow. Sasuke activated his Rinnegan, his Sharingan spinning as he braced for the clash. The two friends launched at each other, their movements so fast that the ground beneath them cracked with every step. Fists collided, sending shockwaves through the training grounds. Each punch, each strike carried the weight of their combined powers. Naruto, with Jiren's strength amplifying his every move, felt the difference immediately. His attacks were faster, stronger, and more precise than ever before. But Sasuke wasn't one to be easily overwhelmed. His Sharingan read Naruto's movements, allowing him to anticipate and counter with his own fierce attacks. The two battled across the field, each testing the other's limits. You've gotten stronger, Sasuke said through gritted teeth as he blocked another powerful punch from Naruto. But don't get cocky. Naruto smirked. I'm not the one who has to keep up. With a surge of power, Naruto twisted his body midair, delivering a spinning kick that caught Sasuke off guard. Sasuke barely had time to raise his guard before the impact sent him skidding backward. The force of the kick tore through the ground, leaving a deep gash in its wake. Sasuke stood up, dusting himself off, and narrowed his eyes. Looks like you're finally getting serious. Naruto landed softly, his aura still blazing. I'm just getting started. As they clashed again, a sudden shift in the air made both of them pause. They stopped mid-battle, their senses on high alert. Naruto's eyes scanned the horizon, and he immediately sensed it, a dark, overwhelming presence approaching the village. They're back, Sasuke muttered, his voice grim. Naruto nodded, his eyes narrowing. The enemies who had attacked before, the ones seeking Jiren's power, were returning. And this time, Naruto could feel their intent. They weren't going to hold back. We need to get to the village, Naruto said, his voice firm as he turned to Sasuke. But Sasuke shook his head. They're not going for the village. They're coming for you. Naruto's breath caught in his throat as the realization hit him. These enemies weren't here for the village's destruction. They were after him and the power he now possessed. Sasuke clenched his fists, his eyes hardening. If they want to fight, we'll give them one. But don't forget what we talked about. You're not Jiren. Fight your way, Naruto. Naruto took a deep breath, the tension in his body easing as he centered himself. Yeah, I will. With that, the two of them launched into the air, racing toward the looming threat on the horizon. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest. But this time, he wasn't afraid. The power he had gained was immense. Yes. But it didn't have to change him. As they closed in on the enemies, Naruto's mind was clear. He would protect his home, his friends, and everything he cared about, not because of Jiren's power, but because of who he was. No matter what came next, Naruto knew one thing for certain. He wasn't fighting alone. Naruto and Sasuke soared through the sky, the wind rushing past them as they made their way toward the ominous presence looming just beyond the village. Naruto's senses were sharper than ever. His perception heightened to the point where he could feel the energy signatures of their enemies as if they were standing right in front of him. There were 3 of them, and their power was unlike anything Naruto had ever encountered. They're stronger than before, Sasuke said, his Rinnegan glowing as he analyzed the distant threat. They must have prepared for a fight. Naruto gritted his teeth, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. These enemies weren't just after his power. They wanted to destroy everything he had fought for, everything he had built alongside his friends. As they approached the edge of the forest, Naruto's eyes widened. There, standing in the clearing, were 3 figures cloaked in dark robes. Each of them radiated an immense amount of energy, their auras pulsating with malicious intent. The air around them seemed to warp, distorting under the pressure of their combined power. Stay sharp, Sasuke warned, landing beside Naruto as they touched down on the forest floor. We don't know what they're capable of. Naruto nodded, his fists clenching at his sides as he stepped forward. You're after me, aren't you? He called out, his voice firm and unwavering. What do you want with my power? One of the figures stepped forward, their face obscured by the shadow of their hood. You possess the strength of Jiren, the strongest mortal in the multiverse, the figure said, their voice cold and calculated. That power doesn't belong to you. It is meant for those worthy enough to wield it. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Worthy? You think I'm not worthy just because I'm not like Jiren? The figure chuckled darkly. Jiren's power is the embodiment of solitude and strength. You, on the other hand, rely on your bonds, your friends. Such weakness is unbecoming of someone with such immense power. Naruto's jaw tightened. You don't understand anything. My strength doesn't come from being alone. It comes from protecting the people I care about. The figure raised their hand, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. We shall see if your ideals can stand against true power. Without warning, the figure launched themselves toward Naruto at blinding speed. Naruto barely had time to react as a fist came hurtling toward him, the sheer force of the attack sending shockwaves through the air. But Naruto was ready. With Jiren's power flowing through him, he sidestepped the attack with ease, his body moving faster than even his own mind could process. He countered with a punch of his own, his fist colliding with the figure's chest. The impact sent the figure flying back, crashing into the trees with enough force to topple them. The other 2 figures immediately sprang into action, one targeting Sasuke while the other lunged at Naruto with a flurry of rapid strikes. Naruto blocked and dodged with precision, his movements fluid and controlled. The power of Jiren amplified his reflexes, allowing him to see and react to every attack with ease. But as he fought, he realized something important. While Jiren's strength gave him an incredible advantage, it wasn't just about brute force. It was about focus, discipline, and maintaining control. The second enemy was relentless, their strikes coming faster and more aggressive with each passing moment. Naruto ducked under a sweeping kick, then leapt back to gain some distance. He could feel the raw intensity of the battle surging through him, the adrenaline coursing through his veins. But he knew he couldn't let the power consume him. He had to stay grounded, to remember who he was. Sasuke, meanwhile, was locked in a fierce battle with his opponent. The two of them moved in a blur of motion, exchanging blows with incredible speed and precision. Sasuke's Sharingan tracked every movement, allowing him to keep up with his enemy's attacks. But he could feel the strain of the fight. These enemies were no ordinary shinobi. Sasuke! Naruto shouted, his voice carrying over the sound of clashing fists. Let's take them down together. Sasuke glanced over at Naruto, his Rinnegan pulsing with energy. Right. The two of them moved in perfect sync, their bond as teammates and friends stronger than ever. Naruto unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks, forcing his opponent on the defensive, while Sasuke darted in from the side, his blade flashing as he aimed for the enemy's weak points. The combined force of their attacks was overwhelming, and soon enough, the two remaining enemies were struggling to keep up. Naruto's heart pounded in his chest as he focused all of his energy into a single, powerful strike. The air around him crackled with energy as his fist glowed with a silver-red aura. With a roar, he slammed his fist into the ground, sending a massive shockwave that tore through the battlefield, knocking the enemies off their feet. The three cloaked figures lay on the ground, defeated and battered. Naruto and Sasuke stood side by side, their breathing heavy but steady. The battle had been intense, but they had come out on top, just as they always did. You may have won this fight, one of the enemies gasped, struggling to get to their feet. But this isn't over. Others will come for you. Naruto Uzumaki. The power you wield is too dangerous to be left in the hands of someone like you. Naruto frowned, his gaze hardening. I don't care who comes after me. I'll protect my village and my friends no matter what. The enemy glared at him, then vanished in a cloud of smoke, their presence fading from the battlefield. Naruto stood there for a moment, his fists still clenched. The power of Jiren flowed through him, but it didn't feel like a burden anymore. He had learned how to control it, how to make it his own. And with Sasuke by his side, he knew he wasn't alone in this fight. Sasuke sheathed his blade and glanced at Naruto. Looks like things are only going to get harder from here. Naruto nodded, a determined smile crossing his face. Let them come. I'm ready. Together, they turned back toward the village, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. No matter how strong the enemies were, Naruto knew one thing for certain. He would never let the power of Jiren define him. He would fight in his own way, with his own strength, and protect those he cared about with everything he had. And as long as he had that, no enemy could ever truly defeat him. As Naruto and Sasuke approached the village, the atmosphere was tense yet hopeful. The villagers had gathered, their expressions a mix of worry and relief as they spotted the two shinobi returning from battle. Whispers filled the air, but Naruto was too focused to pay them much attention. He could still feel the residual energy from the confrontation, a lingering reminder of how quickly things could change. Naruto and Sasuke exchanged glances, silently affirming their commitment to protect the village together. The bonds they shared with their friends and family were more vital than ever, especially in the face of the ominous threats that loomed on the horizon. As they entered the village square, Naruto was met with the familiar, comforting sights and sounds of home. Children were playing, vendors were calling out to customers, and the warmth of camaraderie enveloped him. But even amid this comfort, he could sense the undercurrents of anxiety. Hey, everyone! Naruto called out, raising his voice to cut through the noise. We're back. Everything's okay. The villagers turned to him, a wave of relief washing over their faces. A few children rushed forward, their eyes wide with admiration. Naruto, Sasuke, you're heroes, one of the kids shouted, looking up at them with sparkling eyes. Naruto grinned, his heart swelling at the sight of their innocent excitement. We're just doing what we always do, protecting our village. But as he scanned the crowd, he noticed a figure standing at the back, watching him intently. It was Hinata. Her expression was calm, yet there was a hint of concern in her eyes. As she stepped forward, Naruto felt a rush of warmth fill him. Are you okay? Hinata asked softly, her voice laced with worry. I felt the battle from here. It sounded intense. Yeah, we handled it, Naruto replied, waving off her concerns. Just a few bad guys trying to take my power. Nothing we couldn't handle. Hinata's gaze softened, but he could tell she was still concerned. You know you can't face everything alone, right? You don't have to carry the burden by yourself." Naruto's smile faded slightly as her words hit home. He could feel the weight of Jiren's power pressing down on him. And though he was strong, he knew he couldn't do everything alone. "I know, Hinata. But it's hard not to feel responsible. I have this power now. And I need to make sure it's used for good. You're not alone in this," she insisted, taking a step closer. "We're all here for you. No matter what." "Yeah. We're a team," Sasuke chimed in, crossing his arms. "Whether you like it or not, you have us." Naruto's heart swelled with gratitude. The warmth of their camaraderie washed over him, easing the tension that had built up in his chest. "Thanks, you guys. I promise I won't forget that." As the villagers began to disperse, returning to their daily routines, Naruto felt a sense of resolve solidify within him. He would use Jiren's power, but he wouldn't let it change who he was. He was still Naruto Uzumaki, the ninja who fought for his friends and village. Days turned into weeks, and while the village returned to normalcy, Naruto continued his training. Each day, he pushed himself harder, honing his skills with the power of Jiren. Sasuke trained alongside him, the two of them challenging each other and refining their techniques. They were a well-oiled machine, their bond growing stronger as they faced countless challenges together. Yet, despite their progress, the looming threat of the enemies still hung over them like a dark cloud. Naruto often found himself glancing toward the horizon, sensing that another attack was imminent. The peace they fought for felt fragile, and he was determined to be ready when the time came. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Naruto sat on the edge of a cliff overlooking the village. The sky was painted with hues of orange and purple, and the cool breeze brushed against his skin. He took a deep breath, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. "Hey, mind if I join you?" Startled, Naruto turned to see Sakura approaching. She settled beside him, her expression thoughtful. "You've been pushing yourself hard lately. Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine," Naruto replied, though he knew it was a half-truth. "Just thinking about everything. You know, the enemies, the power, it's a lot to take in." Sakura nodded, understanding glimmering in her eyes. "It's a heavy burden, but you're not meant to carry it all alone. We're all here for you." Naruto chuckled softly. "I know, but sometimes it just feels like I have to prove myself. Like I need to show everyone that I can handle this." "Proving yourself is good. But remember that even the strongest shinobi need help," Sakura said, her voice firm yet kind. "And you've got a whole team that believes in you." Naruto turned to her, his heart swelling with appreciation. "Thanks, Sakura. That means a lot." As they sat in silence, watching the sunset, Naruto felt a warmth spreading through him. The bonds he shared with his friends were his greatest strength. And they would be there to support him, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the tranquility. Naruto's heart raced as he shot up, his instincts kicking in. "Did you hear that?" Sakura nodded, her eyes wide. It came from the village. Without a moment's hesitation, they both sprinted toward the source of the scream. As they reached the village, chaos erupted around them. Villagers were running in all directions, panic etched on their faces. "Stay together, everyone. Stay calm," Naruto shouted, his voice cutting through the noise as he tried to rally the villagers. But before he could get a grip on the situation, he spotted the dark figures once again. The same three enemies stood at the edge of the village, their malicious auras radiating menace. They had returned, and this time, they weren't alone. "Looks like we found them," Sasuke said, appearing at Naruto's side, his expression grim. Naruto's fists clenched as he felt the surge of power within him. "We have to protect everyone, no matter what." The leader of the enemies stepped forward, a sinister smile creeping across their face. "You've grown stronger, Naruto Uzumaki. But it won't matter. We're here to take what belongs to us. Your power will serve us." Naruto glared, his determination solidifying. "You'll have to go through me first." With a fierce battle cry, he charged forward, channeling Jiren's power as he prepared to face the oncoming threat. The village depended on him, and he would do whatever it took to protect it. The clash was imminent, and as Naruto faced the darkness head-on, he could feel the weight of his friends and family behind him. giving him the strength to fight. This time, he would stand firm, not just as a vessel of power, but as a protector of those he loved. The battle was on, and Naruto was ready. As Naruto charged forward, the adrenaline surged through him, igniting every fiber of his being. He could feel Jiren's power coursing through him, amplifying his strength and speed to levels he had only begun to comprehend. The enemies before him, those dark figures that had dared to threaten his village, would not get away this time. With a fierce battle cry, Naruto lunged at the nearest enemy, channeling all his energy into a single punch. The force of his strike sent a shockwave through the air, but the figure deftly sidestepped, their movements almost too quick for Naruto to follow. Not bad, but you'll have to do better than that, the enemy taunted. A cruel smile etched across their face. Sasuke was right beside Naruto, his Sharingan active as he assessed the situation. We need to work together, he called out. If we split them up, we might have a chance. Agreed. Naruto shouted back, adjusting his strategy on the fly. He pivoted to face the enemy, dodging another incoming attack. His instincts sharp and reflexes honed. The two of them moved as one, launching a series of coordinated strikes. Naruto focused on speed, using Jiren's power to enhance his reflexes while Sasuke utilized his Sharingan to predict their opponent's movements. They were a whirlwind of energy, a duo of lightning and precision as they closed in on the enemy. Sasuke unleashed a barrage of kunai, each one aimed perfectly. The first enemy, realizing they were being outmaneuvered, quickly conjured a barrier of dark energy, deflecting the projectiles. But as they were occupied, Naruto seized the opportunity. He charged straight through the barrier, the impact causing it to crack under the pressure. Let's see how tough you really are, Naruto exclaimed, landing a powerful punch to the enemy's gut. The figure doubled over, stunned, giving Sasuke the opening he needed. Raiden! Chidori! Sasuke shouted, his hand crackling with lightning as he thrust it forward. The energy pierced through the enemy's defenses, sending sparks flying as it connected. The figure screamed in agony, staggering backward before collapsing to the ground. One down, Naruto exclaimed, grinning at his teammate. But he quickly refocused, sensing that their battle was far from over. The remaining two figures exchanged glances, their expressions darkening. We underestimated you, the leader said, their voice a chilling whisper. But you will pay for your insolence. In a flash, the leader summoned a torrent of dark energy, swirling it into a massive orb that crackled ominously. You think you can protect your village? You will witness its destruction. Not while we're here, Naruto shouted, gathering his chakra. Sasuke, let's end this. Sasuke nodded, his eyes blazing with determination. Right? They combined their powers, Naruto channeling Jiren's strength into his Rasengan, while Sasuke infused his Chidori with potent lightning. As the dark orb grew, threatening to unleash chaos upon the village, Naruto and Sasuke launched their attacks. Rasengan! Naruto cried, his voice filled with conviction. Chidori! Sasuke shouted, thrusting his hand forward. The two techniques collided with the dark orb, the resulting explosion illuminating the night sky. Energy erupted outward, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. The ground shook beneath them, and the air crackled with tension as the two forces battled for supremacy. Naruto felt the surge of power from Jiren pushing him forward, urging him to dig deeper, to not hold back. We can do this, he shouted, focusing all his will into the attack. Slowly, their combined might began to overpower the dark orb. The swirling energy cracked and splintered, pushing back against the leader's efforts to maintain control. With one final surge, Naruto and Sasuke's techniques broke through the barrier of darkness, forcing it to dissipate into nothingness. Now! Naruto yelled, sprinting forward with renewed vigor. The leader stumbled back, shock and disbelief etched across their features. No? This is impossible. Naruto seized the moment, charging straight at the enemy with a fierce determination in his heart. He could feel the support of his friends, their belief in him fueling his resolve. He was fighting not just for himself, but for everyone he loved. With one powerful leap, he soared into the air, his fist glowing with a brilliant light. I won't let you destroy my home," he shouted, bringing his fist down with the full force of Jiren's power behind it. The impact sent shockwaves through the area, creating a massive crater as Naruto's punch connected with the leader. The figure was sent crashing to the ground, the force of the blow knocking them out cold. The remaining enemy, witnessing the defeat of their leader, hesitated, glancing back and forth between Naruto and Sasuke. "You think this changes anything?" They spat, their voice laced with venom. "We will return. Others will come. And they will finish what we started." Before Naruto could react, the figure vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving only the echoes of their threat lingering in the air. Naruto stood there, breathing heavily as the adrenaline began to fade. He looked around at the village, his heart racing. The fear that had gripped the villagers moments ago was slowly dissipating, replaced by relief and gratitude as they realized the threat had been neutralized. Sasuke joined Naruto, their eyes scanning the area for any signs of further danger. "We need to be vigilant," Sasuke said, his tone serious. "They may not be the only ones." "Yeah," Naruto replied, his gaze drifting over the villagers who were starting to emerge from their homes. Curiosity and concern etched on their faces. "But we'll be ready for whatever comes next." As the villagers gathered, Naruto felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. He was reminded of the strength he drew from them, the bonds that kept him grounded. They were all in this together. "Is everyone okay?" he called out, his voice filled with concern. The villagers nodded, expressions of gratitude and admiration brightening their faces. One elder stepped forward, his voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you, Naruto. Sasuke. You've saved us once again." Naruto waved it off, a smile breaking through his serious demeanor. "It's what we do. We protect each other, right?" The crowd erupted in cheers. Their spirits lifted. Naruto's heart swelled with pride, knowing that their unity made them stronger. As the festivities began to unfold, with villagers celebrating their safety and honoring the two heroes, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. He glanced at Sasuke, who seemed deep in thought. "What's on your mind?" Naruto asked, concern creeping into his voice. Sasuke met his gaze, his expression serious. "We need to figure out who those enemies are and why they're after your power. There has to be a reason behind all this." "Yeah," Naruto agreed, the weight of Sasuke's words settling in. "I have a feeling this isn't just about me. There's something bigger at play." As night fell over the village, the stars twinkling above them, Naruto felt a sense of determination rising within him. He had to protect his home and his friends. They had faced darkness before, and together, they would face it again. "Let's train harder," Naruto declared, a fierce glint in his eyes. "We'll get stronger. And when they come back, we'll be ready." Sasuke nodded, his own resolve shining through. "We'll uncover the truth and prepare for whatever comes next." The two of them stood side by side, united in purpose. With the bonds of friendship at their backs and the power of Jiren within him, Naruto knew that they could overcome any challenge that lay ahead. And as long as they fought together, they would not only protect their village but also strive to become the heroes they were destined to be. The journey would be long and arduous, but with hope and determination, they would face the storm together. Days passed in a blur of training, strategy sessions, and heightened vigilance. The village had returned to a semblance of normalcy, but the undercurrent of tension was palpable. Naruto and Sasuke knew that the threat had not vanished. It lurked in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to strike again. In the early hours of the morning, Naruto found himself on a training ground just outside the village, the rising sun casting a golden hue over the landscape. The air was crisp and invigorating, filled with the sounds of nature awakening. He stood in a clearing, surrounded by the familiar trees that had borne witness to countless battles and training sessions. This was his sanctuary. "Okay, time to push myself further," he declared to no one in particular, clenching his fists and channeling the energy he had received from Jiren. The sheer force of that power coursed through him like a raging river, waiting to be unleashed. He took a deep breath, grounding himself, and focused on the feeling of strength within him. It was different from the Nine Tails chakra he had relied on for so long. This was raw, powerful, and almost primal. He could feel it surging beneath his skin, urging him to let it flow freely. Naruto began with a series of warm-up exercises, each movement purposeful and filled with intent. As he transitioned into more complex techniques, he integrated the lessons he had learned from Jiren. He envisioned himself fighting against powerful foes, and with each strike, he focused on honing his speed, power, and control. Rasengan, he shouted, forming the spiraling sphere of chakra in his palm. With a swift movement, he sent it crashing into a nearby boulder. The impact sent shockwaves through the ground, and the boulder shattered into a million pieces, dust and debris filling the air. Not bad, he mused, the adrenaline pumping through his veins. But I can do better. As he prepared to launch another attack, he felt a familiar presence approach. Sasuke emerged from the trees, his expression serious but determined. I thought I'd find you here, he said, crossing his arms. You've been at this for hours. Naruto wiped the sweat from his brow, gritting. I have to keep pushing myself. We don't know when they'll come back. Sasuke nodded in agreement, stepping into the clearing. I've been thinking. We should train together. Combining our powers will make us even stronger. Good idea. Naruto replied, excitement bubbling within him. Let's see how well we can sync our techniques. The two began to spar, their movements fluid and instinctive. Naruto's speed had increased dramatically since he started harnessing Jiren's power, but he still struggled with full control. Sasuke's Sharingan provided him with the insight he needed to predict Naruto's next moves, allowing him to counter and adapt. Try to focus on your ki, Sasuke instructed between exchanges, ducking under a punch and countering with a quick jab. Let it guide your movements. I know. I just need to get used to this new energy, Naruto grunted, dodging Sasuke's strikes and unleashing a barrage of his own. It feels like it's too much sometimes. That's because it is, Sasuke said with a smirk, easily evading another attack. You've been given power beyond what most can handle. It's going to take time to learn how to wield it properly. Yeah, but I'll get there, Naruto replied, his determination shining through. We both will. With that, they continued their sparring session, pushing each other to their limits. Sasuke utilized his advanced Sharingan to predict Naruto's attacks and counter them effectively, while Naruto unleashed a variety of techniques, experimenting with the new energy he felt flowing through him. As the sun reached its zenith, the training intensified. Naruto focused on combining Jiren's power with his signature Rasengan, striving for a new level of strength. He could feel the chakra building, the air around him vibrating with energy. Let's try it, Naruto yelled, gathering the chakra and forming a massive Rasengan, its surface crackling with raw energy. Rasengan, Jiren's fury. Sasuke stepped back, eyes widening in realization as the attack swirled dangerously. Naruto, be careful. With a fierce yell, Naruto hurled the massive Rasengan towards a distant hill, the force behind it creating a shockwave that sent dirt and debris flying into the air. The attack collided with the hill, and the explosion that followed was unlike anything he had ever witnessed. The hill disintegrated, a cloud of dust rising into the sky as the ground trembled beneath their feet. Whoa! Naruto breathed, eyes wide. That was awesome. Just be careful, Sasuke cautioned, a hint of admiration in his voice. You're going to attract attention with that kind of power. As they caught their breath, Naruto felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. Yeah. But I can't help it. I want to protect everyone, Sasuke smirked. That's the spirit. Just make sure you don't become reckless. As they rested, a sudden rustle in the bushes caught their attention. Both of them turned, immediately on guard. Did you hear that? Naruto asked, his senses heightened. Stay alert, Sasuke warned, activating his Sharingan. A figure emerged from the underbrush, their face obscured by a hood. Naruto instinctively took a step forward, ready to confront whatever threat lay before them. Who are you? Naruto demanded, narrowing his eyes. The figure pulled down their hood, revealing a young woman with long, flowing hair and intense, piercing eyes. I'm here to warn you, she said, her voice steady but urgent. A greater threat is coming. Naruto exchanged a glance with Sasuke, confusion evident on their faces. What do you mean? Sasuke pressed, his expression cautious. They are gathering forces, she explained. The dark figures you fought are just the beginning. They seek something you possess. Something I possess? Naruto echoed, a mix of curiosity and concern rising within him. What do you mean? The power you awakened, the woman clarified, her gaze locking onto Naruto's. They believe it holds the key to a greater force. A power that could tip the balance in their favor. Naruto clenched his fists, feeling a rush of determination. Then we won't let that happen. We'll protect it. Sasuke glanced at Naruto, his eyes sharp. But how do we prepare for an enemy we don't fully understand? The woman took a deep breath, her expression serious. You must train harder and gather allies. There are others like you who possess extraordinary abilities. Together, you may have a chance. Then we'll do it. Naruto declared, his voice unwavering. We'll find these allies and get stronger. The woman nodded, a small smile breaking through her serious demeanor. I'll help you. I know of a place where others like you are gathering. We can leave tomorrow at dawn. Let's do it. Naruto said, his heart racing with excitement. As they made their plans, a sense of purpose ignited within Naruto. He had always believed in the power of friendship and teamwork. Now, with the potential of new allies on the horizon and the strength of Jiren coursing through him, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape as they prepared for the journey to come. This was just the beginning, and Naruto knew that with each passing day, he was one step closer to becoming the hero he was meant to be. That night, as Naruto lay in his bed, thoughts of the battles that lay ahead danced in his mind. He was filled with excitement and anticipation, but also a deep sense of responsibility. The world was changing, and he would be ready to meet that change head-on. With the warmth of the village surrounding him and the power of Jiren within, Naruto closed his eyes, ready to embrace the challenges of tomorrow. He was not just a ninja anymore. He was becoming something greater, something powerful, a guardian of hope in a world that needed it more than ever. As dawn broke over Konoha, the village was painted in hues of gold and orange, a beautiful contrast to the dark challenges that loomed on the horizon. Naruto awoke with renewed determination coursing through his veins. He had spent the night dreaming of the battles to come, the faces of his friends and allies giving him strength. He quickly dressed, throwing on his familiar orange jumpsuit, and made his way outside. The streets of Konoha were quiet, the early morning stillness a stark reminder of the urgency that lay ahead. He met Sasuke at their usual training ground, where the young Uchiha was already waiting, his expression unreadable as always. You ready? Sasuke asked, his tone serious but a hint of excitement flickered in his eyes. Absolutely. I can't wait to see who else we'll find. Naruto replied, the prospect of adventure invigorating him. As they set out, the mysterious woman from the previous day, who introduced herself as Aiko, joined them, her presence adding a layer of intrigue to their journey. She walked with confidence, her long hair flowing behind her as if it were caught in a gentle breeze. Do you have any idea who we might meet? Naruto asked, glancing over at Aiko. Others who share your power, she replied cryptically. Some have already begun to train together, forming a team. They will be crucial in the battles to come. Sasuke remained focused, his keen eyes scanning the surroundings. We should stay alert. If this threat is as serious as you say, we can't afford to let our guard down. Agreed, Aiko said, her gaze unwavering. We'll need to move quickly to find them. Time is not on our side. As they traversed through the forest surrounding Konoha, the atmosphere grew charged with anticipation. Naruto felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This journey was different. It was not just a training mission or a simple outing. It was a quest to gather allies, to fortify their strength against an unknown enemy. After a few hours of trekking through the dense trees, Aiko led them to a clearing where a group of ninjas was training. The sight was both impressive and overwhelming. Various styles of jutsu were on display, showcasing an array of abilities. There they are, Aiko said, her voice steady. You'll find strong allies among them. Naruto stepped forward, confidence blooming within him. Let's introduce ourselves. As they approached, the training ceased, and curious eyes turned to them. A mix of surprise and recognition filled the air, particularly when some of the younger ninjas noticed Naruto. "Is that Naruto Uzumaki?" one of them whispered, a look of disbelief on their face. "Yeah. And Sasuke Uchiha too," another chimed in. The buzz of excitement rippled through the group. They had heard tales of the legendary ninjas, stories of their exploits in the Fourth Great Ninja War, and their continued journey to protect the world. Naruto raised his hand, a bright smile lighting up his face. "Hey, everyone, we're here to meet some strong ninjas and team up." A tall, muscular figure stepped forward, his presence commanding. He had long black hair tied into a high ponytail and wore a simple dark outfit that accentuated his physique. "I'm Raijin," he introduced himself, his voice deep and confident. "We've heard of your strength, Naruto. What brings you here?" Naruto looked at Aiko, then back at Raijin. "We're looking for allies to prepare for an impending threat. We need to train together and grow stronger." Raijin nodded, glancing back at the group. "We're all here because we want to protect our homes. We've felt a change in the air as well. Count us in." The rest of the ninjas exchanged glances, their expressions reflecting a shared understanding. One by one, they stepped forward, each introducing themselves. There was Lira, a kunoichi skilled in wind-based jutsu, Kenzo, a swift and agile fighter known for his lightning techniques, and Ayumi, a healer with immense chakra control. The gathering began to buzz with excitement and energy as Naruto felt the thrill of camaraderie fill the air. "Okay. Then, let's see what each of you can do," he shouted, his enthusiasm infectious. "Wait a minute," Raijin interrupted. "Before we dive into training, we should discuss what's at stake. Aiko, please share what you know." Aiko stepped forward, her demeanor serious as she recounted the recent events, the shadowy figures, the darkness creeping into their world, and the gathering forces threatening to unleash chaos. The gravity of her words hung in the air like a heavy fog, casting a somber tone over the group. "We need to train hard and be ready," Aiko concluded. "I've seen these enemies in action. They won't hesitate to strike when they see an opening. Each of you has unique abilities that can complement one another." Naruto felt a surge of determination. "Then let's get started. We'll train like never before. I can feel the power within me. And with all of us together, we'll be unstoppable." The enthusiasm in the air lifted spirits, and the group began to disperse into smaller teams, eager to show their skills and learn from one another. Naruto felt invigorated, his heart racing at the prospect of training alongside such talented ninjas. He teamed up with Lira and Kenzo, who were both eager to test their abilities against him. "Let's see what you've got, Naruto," Lira challenged, a playful grin on her face. "Okay. Just don't get too surprised," he shouted back, feeling the adrenaline rush through him. They began their sparring session, Naruto throwing punches and using his newfound speed to dodge Lira's wind jutsu. He could feel Jiren's influence guiding his movements, enhancing his reflexes and awareness. "Not bad," Kenzo called out, launching a lightning-infused attack at Naruto. "But can you handle this?" Naruto smirked, focusing on channeling his energy as he dodged the attack. "You bet." He countered with his own Rasengan, throwing it at Kenzo while simultaneously evading Lira's next strike. The energy of the training session was electric, with each member pushing their limits and encouraging one another. Naruto felt invigorated, the sense of camaraderie feeding his spirit as he remembered the lessons he had learned from Jiren. Strength wasn't just about power, it was about connection, trust, and teamwork. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with vibrant colors, Naruto and his new allies gathered to discuss their progress. They exchanged techniques, shared strategies, and fostered bonds that would strengthen them in the days to come. "Let's keep this momentum going," Naruto declared, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "We'll meet every day to train and grow stronger. Together, we'll stand against whatever threat comes our way." The group erupted in cheers, their spirits high. Aiko watched, a satisfied smile gracing her lips. She had seen the spark of potential within each of them, and with Naruto at the helm, she believed they could forge a powerful force against the darkness that threatened their world. But deep down, she sensed that the battle ahead would not only test their strength but also their resolve. As night fell and the stars began to twinkle above them, the weight of their mission loomed ever closer. Yet, for the first time in a long while, hope surged within Ico, igniting a flame that promised to guide them through the darkest of nights. Naruto, Sasuke, and their newfound allies were ready to rise together. But they knew that this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and the road ahead was fraught with peril. But with every step they took, they were forging a path toward a brighter future, and Naruto was determined to lead the way.